All right, so 1.0 of our agenda, additions to the agenda. Any additions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Gamana, all in favor? That is carried. Corrections or amendments, March 3rd, 2021, regular meeting of council minutes. Any corrections or amendments for that? March 3rd, 2021, public hearing minutes for development permit DB 21-006. Any corrections or amendments? All right. So could I get a motion to adopt the March 3rd, 2021 regular meeting of council minutes? Councillor Ballas, all in favor? That is carried. And March 3rd, 2021 public hearing minutes for development permit DB 21-006. Oh, we've got three of them here. I'll give it to Councillor Dodds over there. All in favor? That is carried. So this brings us to an exciting part of our agenda, as exciting as our agendas can be. Oftentimes we focus on, just the decisions, the day-to-day processes, the policies and procedures that happen in a community. And I mean, those are all very important things. But what's really important in a community are the people that live here and the businesses that operate and the people that just generally call it home. And so something that this council has tried to implement recently is a community spotlight, is what it's on our agenda as. And it's just an opportunity to recognize individuals in our community that have meant a lot, who are active in it, or just generally make Drayton Valley a better place. And as we heard this morning, our motto of pulling together kind of embody that saying of pulling together. So we do have 3 different community spotlights. And so I'll just start by going through the first one, which is the Drayton Valley Bakery and Cafe. We do have Trish and Jack Wiersma here, and so I believe that they've recently sold the bakery and to some individuals that want to keep that moving forward. And it's it might be a kind of a surreal time to see everything that you've done and pass it on. But we do want to take the opportunity to recognize your commitment to our community. The Drayton Valley Bakery is one of those places that's the staple. And I know in my business, I can always tell a real salesman comes to town is if they bring Tim Hortons donuts or if they bring Drayton Valley Bakery donuts. And so that's the threshold if I have time for them or not. So it's, what you've done there for the last number of years is certainly appreciated. And we just want to recognize you as being great stewards in our community. And we do have a little plaque here. So I guess if you want to just kind of come forward, or maybe I'll come step over there to with the, Actually, if we can come to the middle here, I think we can social distance. That'll be fine. So here we have the traditional point together Drayton Valley picture. So this is something that's customary for all of them. And then just the recognition, or a certificate of recognition on behalf of the town of Drayton Valley. So I would shake your hand, but that's probably frowned upon with this many people, I think. So so if we can grab a picture. So yeah. For the second one is a recognition from the Malone Clinic. We have a couple doctors, Dr. Beacom and Dr. Payton, who have been longtime members of our community, and the fact that we have a physicians recruitment committee says that sometimes in rural communities it's a bit of a challenge to find professionals that want to come to small centers, especially when you have the bright lights of Edmonton just gleaming from down the road. But the fact that they've set up roots in Drayton Valley and have committed as much time as they have, it is a great pleasure to have them in our community and continue to be recognized for what they do. So we do want to say a very special thank you to the Malone Clinic, and specifically Dr. Beacom and Dr. Payton, for everything that you've done. And we also have some plaques here for you and some certificates. So if you're able to come down, and we'll present you with those. Could have, yes. And so thirdly, we have an artist recognition. And this is something that very recently the town of Drayton Valley put out a call to some of the local artists. And I don't think any of us were surprised when we saw the first name coming through, which is Wendy Anderson. It's, when you talk about Drayton Valley, there's, a lot of images come up. But something that I think is not as notable is the large amount of talent that we have in our community when it comes to arts and artists. And so we certainly appreciate the culture that all the artists in our community bring to Drayton Valley, and specifically today, Wendy Anderson. I know I've seen her down at all the farmers markets having some, and I believe I've actually purchased some art off you in the past. It was a gift for my wife, and it still hangs up on our wall today, so we do appreciate that. And I do want to just recognize Wendy Anderson for your commitment to artwork and helping bring a little bit of culture to our very small community in Alberta. Thank you very much. So if you want to come down, or oh, did you bring a few samples as well?
These are for sale. That's beautiful.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your art?
Well, I was asked to bring some examples, and as a stained glass artist, we don't really stockpile work. We're usually commissioned, and the bigger pieces are not generally made and hang around for long, but this is one that I like to keep. It's my wow factor when I'm at my shows. They come in. So this is the moose. Wow, beautiful.
How long would that take to make?
Oh, geez, I knew you were gonna ask that. We don't sell it by how many hours, so I rarely time myself, so I couldn't tell you for sure. This piece would sell for about $925.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lovely piece of art. And, yeah, we certainly appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
Let's have that, bring that into the picture. So here, if you want to hold that, I can hold this for the picture. So just, yeah, so once again, just, you know, a final, very sincere thank you from myself, but also from the town of Drayton Valley for all the commitments that the three groups that we just recognized in the community spotlight. You truly do make Drayton Valley a better place, and as we continue to move forward as a community, we certainly look for guidance from individuals such as yourself in making sure that Drayton Valley has a long, fruitful existence. So thank you very much. We do appreciate it. So, you guys can leave now if you want. It's our feelings won't be hurt. All right, so we have our delegation slated, which is our aquatic center update. So I'm assuming this is coming over Zoom.
I don't know if they're ready yet. 9:30 was the allotted time.
Okay, so we will get done.
Our busy decision items.
Department reports?
Oh, gosh.
This can be a record-setting meeting.
Because I believe for 7.1, was there a presentation that was coming with that?
And that is, she's coming after. Yeah, Ms. Strand is coming after.
Okay, well, let's move on to our department reports while we wait for our delegation. Mr. Ellis.
Good morning, Mayor Dirksen and Council. Planning and Development. We're working on, of course, lots of stuff with other departments, economic development with some stuff going on there, communications with building permits and just like guides and advising people like why they need a permit and whatnot. And our website has been updated, so thank you to Jen Stone and Kelsey for updating the website on that. Mediation, of course, can't say much about that. And just our regular day-to-day development permits and inquiries and everything like that. So everything's kind of really smooth sailing right now. Thanks.
Perfect. Any questions for planning and development? Councillor McGee?
Mr. Ellis, we have an agenda item for economic development tomorrow, and we're going to talk about sort of what we see in the community as far as some buildings and et cetera, et cetera. But my question is, are we, when we have sort of this change in our land uses and those kinds of things, we've started that process. We're still working somewhat with ISL. I think I read that they're sort of come in when we need them. Can you just describe that a little bit for me?
Thank you, Councillor McGee. So our land use bylaw, of course, ISL led that project for us. It was decided with the MDP that was put off until next year. Instead of ISL leading that project, we would be the lead on that, and we can call on ISL when they're needed for certain components of that project that where their expertise is, like where we really need their expertise, where we don't necessarily have it. So that we still foresee them being involved, but maybe not as much as originally intended.
So if a citizen is out there right at the moment and listening, the opportunity to look at our at where the community is going or what we think the community is doing, when would they have that opportunity? Or have they been afforded that opportunity already?
Thank you. They've already been afforded that opportunity with the land use bylaw and that part. with the MDP, which is more of a vision setting, goal setting document, that they would have that opportunity next year when that project is initiated, when it's launched.
Thank you.
Has the school applied for a development permit yet?
Pool, yes. School, no.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for that department report. We have time to move on for engineering. Mr. Olenek.
Good morning, Your Worship and esteemed council. With engineering, we have all of the RFPs for the sidewalk program and also the line painting in. So me and the engineering department will be looking at that and making a decision and awarding that at the end of next week. Water plant, I'm still working on developing a 5 and a 10-year maintenance plan, just kind of what's needed there and kind of moving forward what we need to do, which is a bit. Street sweeping, as you've noticed, is already in full swing. By the end of the week, we'll be starting into residentials. So even though it's quite heavy due to the lack of snow and Stormwell not being able to clean up most of it, it's heavy, but it's going well. So stay tuned with that. Potholing trailer was commissioned last Wednesday, so it's already been rolling around. We're formalizing a proper pothole program, which basically grids everything off by priority. We're in development of that, so it would be a more structured approach on how we do deal with the potholes. Obviously, you know, mains, secondaries, residentials. And the cell 5, cell 6 rehabilitation and also closing of the polishing cell. We're still in mid-concept design because there's a little bit of modification needed there before we move forward with that. Other than that, I believe that's all that's going on. I'm open to any questions you guys might have.
All right. Thank you very much. Councillor Ballas.
Thank you. With the potential of the pool being developed and construction starting here in the next month or so, the park, is there anything that needs to be done there? Because I can assume that there may be trailers, people coming in with their RVs to utilize that park.
Thank you, Councillor Ballas. So the RFP for the RV park management has also come in. Mr. Easton will kind of apprise you of that a little bit later on. But yeah, we're looking at hopefully awarding that and opening that fairly soon. So hopefully that'll be in play.
So, Mr. Easton.
I can also thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can also add to this, Councillor Ballas, in terms of the preparation. We are doing some electrical work upgrade to 5 of the sites to bring that up to 50 amp service for some of the larger units. And beyond that, looking for the installation of Wi-Fi. So recognizing that a lot of these units, if they are working within the community, they also need access to Wi-Fi for some of their work duties.
Councillor Gamana, then Councillor Peebles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment, just wanted to thank you, Public Works, for starting the street sweeping and all that. So we were just getting a couple of phone calls, and now I can say that, it's started and it's going on, right? So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Peebles.
Yeah, thank you. So we bought that new street sweeper, the Super Sucker 5000 or whatever you call that thing. And it's doing a really good job, I've noticed, on the roads. So previously we had our one that wasn't good. I think we spent $200K on this one. Is that approximate? Am I close?
Thank you, Councillor Peebles. So the new one was about 280.
Yeah, cool. So 280. But what did we pay annually to have a crew come in and do it? Because it seems that we're able to do this on our own.
Yes.
At this point, right? So what did we spend annually to have a crew come in?
In the past, we've had 3 contract sweepers come in at the cost of $185 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So typically, for how much they were in to do it every year was about $60,000.
Okay. So this thing will essentially pay for itself in 4 or 5 years, and we're just able to do it ourselves.
That's right. And we currently have 2 sweepers. We still have the old unit that we're kind of nursing along there. Hopefully, it's my intention that in the next, say, 3 years, I can approach this council and maybe ask to replace that one as well, and then we can entirely keep that in-house. But yeah, the Elgin, the Super Sucker 8000, it is actually doing a remarkable job.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
And one other thing, the pothole thing, I saw the little video on Facebook. I don't know if we have a funny name for that one yet, but the hot packer, I don't know. I don't know what you want to call that thing. But so are we finding that's doing the job? It's
Yes.
doing good?
Yeah, it actually really is, and the crew's really taking to it. There's definitely a sense of pride doing it properly, and actually these potholes will last more than 2 weeks with the proper material and application and the restorative seal. I mean, the manufacturer's saying 5 to 7 years life for these potholes.
It's great.
So,
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
just if I can add one more thing, talking to the consultant we have with the landfill RFP process, they're hoping by the end of May that the RFP will be done and we can execute it at the beginning of June. So just thought I'd just kind of let council know about the update on that. So.
You mentioned issues, not necessarily issues, but perhaps upgrading at the water treatment plant. Can you expand on that?
Thank you, Councillor Ballas. So with the maintenance program and with it being a very high-tech water plant, there is certain things we need to do to that plant to keep it in compliance. Mainly it's the strainers. They're quite a costly thing. I don't know if it's ever been brought to this council before on the cost of it and actually the life cycle of these things, but it is something that's coming very quickly. There is an opportunity to sign on with a company that can supply us with that, and it would lock us into a term where we wouldn't be at the mercy of market value. We could kind of be locked in, and it would be essentially customer service, the required parts, all that for basically a cost of about $80,000 over the course of 5 years, which would be a heck of a lot cheaper than paying these strainers outright for the cost of $1.2 million. So it's quite the cost. Also, too, it's a lot of ease of maintenance, just kind of, I want to call it housekeeping, just so that it definitely keeps us in compliance. And also it can help reduce costs as well. And also it'd be a little bit safer for the crew than it is right now. So.
Okay, Councillor McGee.
Sure, just to follow up on, when you talk about heaviness, the gravel and the sand is heavier than usual because of the snow, there's no snow to work with it, or no rain, or what? I'm not sure what you meant by that.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. So typically with snow removal, I mean, we're consistently sanding the roads, and you have like an accumulation built in the snow and ice. Obviously, when we have enough of an accumulation that triggers a snow removal, we windrow it into the center and put it through our machine. Now with the lack of snow removal, essentially that all just kind of melts and stays on the road. It saves on the life of the snow blower, but it puts a heavier burden on the street sweepers, so it's kind of a catch-22. Yeah, typically if it's always nice to have one final snow event right just before spring, because it makes the spring sweeping go a lot smoother. Gotcha. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you remind me of the time when you think you might be sort of, it'll take the time it'll take to do that, to finish?
For the sweeping, I'm hoping the end of next week. Wow. Yeah, it depends on, of course, weather and cooperation from our residents moving their vehicles, because that slows us down when they don't move.
Heard you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ballas.
Sorry, Owen. Sorry. Just had one more question. You mentioned safety. Are you referring to the drinking of the water or to the employees?
To the employees. Yeah, no, there's no concerns with the drinking water we supply our residents. It's just, it makes life a little easier and a little safer for our employees working in that plant, is what I'm meaning. As we speak, yes. Yeah, I'm addressing that right now. So.
Okay, anything else? All right, you're free this time. I don't think I see. We'll get one more department report in, Community Services and FCSS. Ms. Dreesen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Just on behalf of FCSS, I know that we're going to have a presentation, but on Friday they held that the mental health caring for caregivers. 140 people signed up for what was a maximum of 100 allotments on the online program. but it had been recorded and it's on YouTube, so if anybody wants to tap into that, they can do so. Some good comments coming out of that workshop. The income tax program for a volunteer income tax program is running. And again, anybody who has a simple tax return or seniors are able to apply for assistance through that program. And in April is when we usually tackle our volunteer appreciation banquet. Unfortunately, with the restrictions, we are not allowed to do that, but we are going to continue on with the same program that we had last year with recognizing volunteers and offering them just an opportunity for a gift from our local businesses. So supporting our local businesses at the same time as recognizing our volunteers. As of Monday, there has been no further easement of the restrictions, so the pool is still operating the way that they have been for the last several weeks. Schools are still utilizing the time. Otherwise, though, nothing further in terms of their programming. And our department will be putting out a community guide outlining, again, some of the services that we have, recognizing that while there's not a significant amount of programming, there are still significant things that people can enjoy and do. And whether that's the trail system for disc golf or whether it's some of the programs that we offer through FCSS, we'll be putting out that community guide. That's my report.
Any questions? Nope. All right. Well, I do see a Troy Smith up on the board there. So I guess if, can you hear us, Troy?
Yep.
Perfect. We can hear you. Perfect. So you are our 9:30 delegation with the Aquatic Center update. So I guess if you can hear us and we can hear you, I'll turn it over to you to start the presentation or the conversation, I guess.
No, sounds good. Sounds good. So I think, so we've got myself, Troy Smith. Hopefully you guys all know me. We've been to council a few times now from Group 2 Architecture. Stephen Faust, who's one of our architects from our Edmonton office on there as well. And then Dan Overmar is the project manager from Shandos Construction. I think, Dan, we're going to talk about the sort of the nuts and boltsy stuff first, and then we'll show some colors and renderings and kind of stuff later. So maybe we'll do you've got to eat your vegetables before you get to have dessert. So Dan can kind of go through the schedule, and Doug from our Edmonton office as well, Doug Ramsey's here as well. Dan can kind of present the schedule and the budget, sort of where we're at, and then we'll talk about sort of finishes and things like that afterwards.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Hey, thanks, Troy. I'll share my screen here and just kind of put up what we have for a couple things. So budget-wise, we'll start there. Just as a high level, the current budget, we're still anticipating 21,936, which is the revalidation number, still trending towards that and comfortable with that number. We'll go into a little bit of the nuts and bolts on a few of the things that we've seen so far. So when it comes to all of the finishes, we break it up basically based on division and track that based on original validation numbers, revalidation, and then the current numbers. Look at it weekly, and the biggest thing that we've seen within the last couple of months is the material cost escalation, and some of them have been pretty significant, but overall I would say that through some design changes, a little bit of modification on sequences, we've been, for the most part, been able to mitigate a lot of those. For example, concrete, a lot of that, the biggest price swing that we would see in concrete is wood, because that comes into play when we're talking about formwork. Wood is a big component when it comes to formwork, and we're anticipating that cost to be a little bit more. Working with them, having some monolithic pours, less pour breaks, less formwork, and basically keeping that in line, we were able to keep that number, any of the wood components with that, keep that down and have more cycles to basically keep the budget number where it needs to be. A lot of the other ones, polypart numbers that we're looking at, budgets have increased again with some components for cost escalation, but then taking a look for steel, for example, which was probably the most significant cost escalation. Again, I analyzed some components for HSS members to wide flange beams that was able to bring it down to about cost neutral, a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it's a very big win on that one in order to keep the numbers where they need to be. So individual components, we do have all of the finishes and everything going out. We have 2 tender packages set. First one's out the door, that comparator that has all of the components for earthworks structure going up to superstructure even. And that is out the door right now, closing at the end of the month. When those come back, then that'll be a lot of cost certainty for those items. Tender package 2, which will take care of all of the remaining components, is in May. And again, that'll get the numbers as we're going forward with a little bit of cost certainty. As we're seeing where we're sitting with the budget, it's relatively on par with where we see most of the projects sit. Numbers from validation to budget during design, there isn't usually huge fluctuations within there. The biggest thing, like I said, we've seen is cost escalation, but the overall numbers have been basically trending down, which is positive, as we've seen going from validation to where we're sitting on the current risk. We've jumped it down to about 100,000. So overall, we're sitting pretty good on where it's trending, and a lot of the overall risk items will come into play or be mitigated during the construction, the early parts of construction during tender activities. So that's where the overall is sitting with opportunity. We do still have the risk register, which we're carrying 728 risk register, which covers off various items throughout construction, and then analyzing it as we're going through and being able to chip away and then realize some of the risks that can go away as we're going through construction again. So that is basically where we're sitting with budget.
Dan, maybe just one thing to note to the town. I mean, one of the things that I would say a bunch of the poly party members are doing right now, for example, our pool mechanical trade, Master Pools, is actually looking at procuring a lot of their materials early to try and mitigate any sort of escalation they might be seeing. We've heard, I think it's starting April 1st, a large increase in PVC, and they've already actually procured about 70% of the PVC pipe we need for the project already. And then they're going to try and procure at least, it sounded like our meeting from Tuesday, up to about 85% of their PVC pipe before April 1st or middle of April, whatever the date actually is for that jump up in price, so that we can try and mitigate those issues as best we can. So the team's being very proactive. I would say just seeing the cost fluctuations we're seeing, cost fluctuations in the market we're seeing from material costs. It seems like, as Dan said, steel, wood, PVC pipe, copper pipe, there's just steel pipe, there's a lot of things that right now we're seeing really large escalation in. So we're trying to mitigate those by purchasing what we can now, and then, as we said, we've got hopefully some escalation dollars in our risk register, so trying to balance all those things off to make sure that we're hitting the budget that we've been tasked to hit.
Yeah, absolutely, good point, Trey. And same thing with the steel, all of those components that there's further cost increases that are supposed to be coming for steel. So the idea is to get it out and basically purchase all of the steel components prior and get that into the system. So mitigate as much of further cost escalation, because that seems to be the trend going forward. So, but we are in pretty good shape to make sure that we're keeping that as low as possible. So schedule-wise, what we do with the schedule, and I will share another screen here. We go through a process with the schedule that basically it's referred to as first planner or last planner or full planning. What we do is we have the end date on the schedule. We go through, we generate a schedule based on all of the components that are required to build the project. Then we efficiencies can be for those, send out a preliminary schedule, and then we have all of the parties come into play, or that are currently in the, on the project, analyze it, see where there's efficiencies on it, adjust it, and we get the overall lump sum trades to come back, once we have those signed up, and that same process again. So it's kind of a continuous iterative process that we're adjusting schedule as it goes, and just making sure that the overall schedule is still solid, because that's going to be the biggest variable on where we can sit, as well as fluctuations on cost. If we can finish early, then again, that's going to be savings to the project. So currently, where we're sitting right now, it's still based on the where we're still on track with where we're at with the revalidation. Looking at getting on site at the beginning of May, and then having completion in fall of next year. So 18-month schedule is still where we're targeting. The what we're doing right now is we do have a 4D schedule planned that it takes the current model, it breaks down the model into the components of the schedule processes, and then we assign durations to each of those, and then it builds based on the sequence of each individual component on the schedule. So right now we have the 4D schedule mapped out, which includes all the way up to structure completion, which is about beginning of next year, kind of the first quarter of next year. And just to give you an idea of the sequence, I'll run the overall process. So it kind of begins with the piling. You can see the sequence on the piling as it goes forward. Then it goes into grade beams, concrete structures, each of the individual components. Why we do this, it helps with the overlap on the schedule and visualizing it with the entire team to make sure that as we're building, we have the correct amount of overlap and the correct amount of trades in a certain area, and we're not just piling everyone and having people work on top of each other's shoulders. As you can see there, the steel goes up and going up based on the divisions of concrete. Roof goes on top, one section, then the other section. We left off the cladding on this portion just so you can see the interior for the best view, but cladding would be going up and surrounding the exterior as well, just so that we can provide any cording for heat elements to the concrete. And then the pool structure begins each individual component. The pool structure starts with mud slab and topping slab and walls followed on that. So just each of the individual pools, starting with swim, then leisure, and then goes into the hot tub. And that would bring us to about the first quarter of next year on the overall process.
So Dan, the intent is to do this 4D scheduling from that piece onward as well, with respect to when we get the rest of the trades involved as well?
Correct. Right now we have the 4D schedule. Once we have finishes, we'll put the finishes generation on the entire component, and a lot of it, the pull plan that we've had is based on the 18 months for the components that we do have a good handle on based on the trays and the polypart numbers that we have on board. Now, when we put out the schedules to tender, then we're able to dive down into a little bit more detail and do a few more iterations to see what other efficiencies we can have on all of the other trades. So, yeah, millwork will have cladding, and as well as masonry, all of those guys for the exterior to firm it up as well and make sure that we're all on the same page and pulling in the same direction.
Nice. Okay. Maybe just any questions, comments from any of the town council members before we jump into this?
Councillor McGee?
Good morning, gentlemen. Tom McGee here. I'm thinking about your startup in the spring, and you move through the fall, and then we head into the winter of 2021. I'm guessing that you're going to be set to be able to work through the winter. Can you just describe that a little bit for me?
Yeah. So with the winter work, what we have on that schedule, we'll just share my screen again. So basically, The idea or the sequence on the schedule is we get all of the piling foundations done, which is the gradients, the walls, and everything that you see there. As we move forward, we jump onto structure, which is the superstructure on steel. The steel gets erected and basically thrown up, closed, roof goes on, and then you would also have the cladding portion of this, which isn't shown on the reporting schedule. The cladding would be put on as well on the exterior. That gives us enough of a hoarding element that we can now start heating, and with the cladding on and the heating element, that's when all of this interior work for the concrete and the section can happen. So that's, if we don't put the steel up, when we don't put the cladding, then you have to heat for each individual component of the pool base and structure, and then that just becomes a monstrous activity of just building enclosures that were pushed in the winter. So that was a little bit of an adjust that we did on a couple of the schedule analysis. One section that we ran was we looked at doing all of the exterior concrete elements, doing the foundation, as well as the interior components that are shown here now, just populating in green. We were looking at doing that all at the same time, but the problem with that is it does push into the winter activities. So then you're putting up a steel structure in the winter, and then you're having to heat for each individual component in order to keep the schedule moving. So breaking that out and doing it after the building's enclosed essentially is the most effective and cost effective at the end of the day for that portion.
That's what I was looking for, the hoarding factor, right, Dan? So thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other questions from council? All right. Nope, we're good from our end if you want to keep moving forward.
Sounds good. I'll share my screen now.
Let's try before we jump into the fun stuff.
Yeah, sure.
The only other schedule note is that we are moving towards submitting our building permit application in the next couple weeks. Anticipate that going in first week of April. So yeah, that's the only other little near-term schedule item.
Hopefully that gets approved.
Yes, we've done sort of a pre-application review with inspections group. So they've already they've laid eyeballs on it and had some very productive comments back from them. So yeah, we're optimistic that should go fairly smoothly.
Yeah, and we always, on every project I say, we always try and get the authority having jurisdiction involved as early as we possibly can. Not only inspections group, we've had a meeting with Alberta Health Services with respect to the permits that are going to need to be in place from them for the pools. So I think that again was a really, really valuable meeting to have early in the process to get them involved, to have the discussions before a drawing lands on someone's desk, basically. So we always try and do it as much as we can so that hopefully there's no things that come out of left field once permitting actually starts. So. Okay, so we're just going to go through a little bit about the finishes in the project, where we're at today, and I think some of this is from an exterior perspective. You've seen the walkthroughs we've done. I think last time we were here, we showed some of the walkthroughs that Steve and the team have been working on from outside to inside the building. We're just going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the materiality from outside to inside. Outside is I would say pretty similar to where it was a couple of months ago when we met with the town. The building is really, a lot of it is clad in metal. From a cost-effective perspective, it's the most cost-effective, most durable material we can use, but we've tried to dress it up a little bit with some different profiles and some different colors and some things like that. So it isn't just essentially a metal box. So maybe just starting, I'll start sort of at the front and then work our way around. So near the front entrance, obviously lots of glass. Again, we talked about that last time, about that idea of trying to make that entrance more prominent with our sort of V-shaped inverted kind of roof. And then we've got a kind of corrugated sort of gray metal siding On this side, this would be where the future climbing wall, exterior climbing wall would go. We've left a spot for that, but at this point we have to obviously clad it until we get to that point. In the corners, we've got this sort of vertical, again, it's metal siding product. Actually, the product is actually from Vancouver Island. It's a product, company called Alkene, L-K-N-E, and they can do a variety of siding profiles. So we've got sort of this custom profile with these kind of different blue sort of colors that wrap around the corner, and then above is the Calwall, the translucent. It's almost like a plastic glass product, but it provides a very, very high R value and a very soft light coming into the pool. So a good amount of natural light, but not a lot of glare on the water. So you see that in the corners of the building. And then the roof sort of looks like it's kind of almost like folded down. So we've got this white standing seam metal that kind of comes down in this kind of V shape on the east side, and then on the fascia along the south side. And then we've got a wood look metal soffit here as well, so to try and bring in a bit of the warmth of the wood. Again, that's a metal product as well, just from a durability perspective. So for the long term, trying to make sure we're picking items that are durable and have that longevity. And then as we sort of go to the sort of north and west side, so this is sort of the north side. So same thing, allows you to wrap around the corner on the north side. We've got a kind of corner glazing unit, which is a little bit hard to see with the trees, but there's a corner window here right where the future water slide will go inside. And then there's a large section of Calwall that's up here, and then that the colored blue panels kind of wrap around the corner. And then we've got that same kind of dark gray corrugated metal siding around here, and then the white standing seam wrapping around along this side as well. Trying to use some of the kind of shapes that we had on the east side and bringing those to the west side. And we do know that eventually, hopefully, years down the road, there may be a field house or some possible addition that could attach to the building. So we wanted to make sure we were putting something on this side of the building that's not going to be difficult to remove or deal with, or whatever the case may be down the road on the project. And then you can also see a large, this is our sort of main mechanical unit for the pool, which is up here on the top of the building.
Is just on that, it's Tom McGee here. I see a hill, or it's seemingly a hill, and then a downslope into the. And so is that how that's going to work? You're going to run some dirt work, and then it almost looks like as you go down into the building, there will be, I don't know.
I think it's not really intended to be a hill, Tom. This is. Are you thinking of this here?
Yeah, and if you just keep going, you look like you're in a hill, and then you're into where you're going to have some water gathering, or this just a hole almost at the back end there.
I think it's a sort of just the way the rendering looks. No, it definitely isn't like that. Like actually the water, we're actually draining the water off the back of the building, and it's going, it's actually going this direction, right there. And then the water along this side is actually, anything that drains off is kind of going around this way and back out. And then the parking lot's at the front, and then all the drainage comes around the parking lot to the east on the building. So we've actually spent quite a bit of time working through drainage and swales and all those sorts of things with our civil engineer to make sure that we don't have any water issues, or the building basically sitting in a hole. The building will be a few feet out of the ground, so we're trying to make sure we mitigate any water issues.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's Nancy here. Just a couple quick questions. Just when I'm looking at the rendering, I'm just trying to get a better idea, I guess, of the slopes for the roof elevations. And so I don't know if it just appears that way, but my question would be for snow load, because it looks like there's quite a few areas that could potentially be piling up, is my first question. And then my second question was on the front elevation, the two poles that are the support there on the little overhangs. Yeah, Like, just aesthetically, they look off to me. Would there be the opportunity that you could, like, box those out and maybe throw in, like, the wood look metal soffits or something like that, just to, so they don't look so much just like a support pole? Just throwing it out there.
The slope of the roof, so the roof is sloped on sort of the big portion of the roof and this kind of smaller portion of the roof that goes over the lobby. Snow load's definitely been taken into account. We've worked on a lot of those things with the structural engineer. At the, over top of the kind of the change room area, this section is a more lower sloped roof area, and that's where most of our mechanical equipment is placed. It's also to provide easy access. We've got a roof hatch back here to be able to allow maintenance staff up on the roof to service the mechanical units on this side. But again, snow load, I would say that's all been taken into account on all of these pieces. So I would say there's no worries about that whatsoever.
The large roof above the natatorium is also hosting many solar panels. So there's additional load from the solar panels. So all in all, it's a very robust roof structure to accommodate those loads.
And then as far as the columns goes, I mean, I think the idea with the support columns just being sort of a painted steel element, I think we liked the idea that they were just, they were thin and they were light supporting that roof versus trying to make them something heavy and look like something they aren't. I think the team liked the idea of the wood look soffit to bring that, because it also comes into the vestibule of the lobby and then ties into some of the pieces on the inside with respect to some of those wood finishes. We have steel columns all the way through the inside of the building as well, so we didn't think it made sense to then dress up the columns on the outside when the columns on the inside are then exposed and painted steel. So I think that was the rationale behind the aesthetics there. Okay, maybe we'll go
Move on.
inside. So we've just done we've got some 3D, sort of almost like cut through, kind of like Ambient Office likes to call them dollhouse renderings. So you can sort of just see sort of things within the lobby. So this is inside the lobby. So this is the main reception desk. And then the pool is over, so this is actually the exterior wall pool, but the pool is over on the right-hand side, and then you can sort of see in here, you can actually see a view into the multi-purpose room right there, and then these are the doors that lead you back to the change rooms on this side. So we've got a sort of almost like an angled wall in here that's kind of accent painted in a kind of green color. We've got some mechanical duct work through inside. We're building this wall out so that we can actually hide some of the duct work and some of the roof drainage lines in here. So those are inside the wall. We painted that green to make it a bit of a feature. We've got a bit of a wood look, vinyl floor, high quality, very robust vinyl flooring product in the lobby. And then the reception desk is a combination of solid surface, which you can see here on the right, and then a kind of plastic laminate on part of the face. And then we're looking at a couple of different options with respect to acoustic treatments, and we want to use this. We were sort of looking at this idea of using some wood elements that would then have acoustic insulation in behind them to help with acoustics in this space and in the natatorium. So that's sort of the general overall look. And then some of these angles and things like that, trying to play off some of the angles on the exterior of the building that we're showing with the cladding and some things like that. So then sort of some of the, coming from the lobby back of house spaces. So this section here leads directly from the reception desk is kind of over here, back of house, lifeguard room, some of the administrative space, and then the main multi-purpose room, which looks out onto into the pool, into the natatorium deck. Again, trying to take that wood look, vinyl flooring, bring that through, and then we would have tile flooring within the lifeguard room because it ties directly to the deck, and then that same flooring that would look within the multi-purpose room. Again, and trying to use some of these accent colors that we were using throughout the pool, the greens and the blues, trying to put those in specific areas. So we're not overwhelming it with color, but we're providing kind of punches of color. So again, solid surface on the countertops. We've got different kind of plastic laminates for our cabinetry, and then some accent colors. Again, in here, looking at some different accent colors within that multi-purpose room, as well as a possibility. And then into the change rooms. So, wait for it to regenerate. So, male change room is over here, female change room is over here, and then the universal change room is back here. Again, having that wood vinyl floor coming from the lobby, bringing you right to the back, having a transition point between that flooring and then the tile flooring and the universal change there, and then a transition point between each of the two male-female change rooms in here at the entrances into those individual change rooms. Again, trying to use the same kind of color palette, some accent colors in the green, and then some accent even in the tile and in the showers. There's some really great colored tile products, so trying to intersperse those to some degree. We haven't landed on the pattern just yet, but within the shower areas, looking at bringing in some of those colors that we're using elsewhere. And then trying to look, we've talked a lot about the partitions for the various change stalls and trying to keep them more of a darker color versus going to a lighter color, just from a vandalism perspective, those kind of things. We think that the darker is going to be more robust over the long term. So you'll see the kind of gray of the change stalls here. And then the field flooring tile within the universal change room basically leads you onto the pool deck, because it's the same flooring tile that we use on the pool deck as we would use in here. And then the accent floor tile within these two change rooms is more this gray color here, just to differentiate the two male-female versus the universal change. The auditorium itself, again, this is just a bit of a, it's a rendering just to give you a bit of an idea. So this is sort of like standing on the east side of the lazy river, looking back towards the change rooms. Again, trying to bring these kind of green elements, the punches of color with some wall tile coming from the change rooms. And then we're really trying to make sure that the color scheme is really consistent throughout. So our pool, like our handholds and our edges of the pool tanks, all have this kind of a blue edge to them, with a field tile of a more whitish kind of tile. And then our water features, we're looking at a couple of different blues for our kind of spray features here with the big flower spraying, and then even our kind of spray features on the edges here, they would be in those kind of blue colors. And then we've got lots of variety of spray features coming from the deck level. So these ones are on the lazy river, and then there's some spray features at the edge of the leisure pool entrance here, as well as some spray features over here. So a wide variety of spray elements, but really tying them together with the overall color scheme, trying to integrate those kind of blues and whites into those elements. And then the idea of using this, we have a big sort of a large bulkhead above the change rooms, which is where our return air is being taken from. So using that and trying to clad that in wood, as well as has some acoustic properties, so that we can really help mitigate any of the sound in the space, while we also have acoustic panels on the ceiling as well, trying to make sure that the space isn't too loud going forward. And then lastly, just some things we're not really there just yet, but looking at sort of signage. Signage is one of those things that if it's not thought about early, can kind of detract when it's all said and done. So we've been looking at larger sort of versions of sort of large scale graphical signage to announce where the change rooms are, male, female, universal, all those sorts of things. So it's very clear. It doesn't have to rely necessarily upon a whole bunch of words, but more so through symbols. So it's easier for a wide variety of people to understand. These are just some examples of other facilities. This is Pike Lake Pool in Saskatchewan. We did a new change house for them, and we integrated these sort of large-scale laser-cut aluminum letters and symbols on the project, so to denote male and female change rooms, and then our family change. You can sort of see we've got this, again, same large-scale symbols and then sort of kid-size symbols that help you understand that the family change is kind of down this corridor. This is actually me and my daughter. When at the time, I think she was like 3 or 4, who's now 10. So yeah, so that's sort of where we are at on that whole front. Any comments, questions?
All right, any questions from council? All right, no questions from our side. We do appreciate taking the time to show us the renderings and start getting some reality here. Oh, Councillor McGee?
Sorry, gentlemen, we're looking at a small project over at the Shangri-La Lodge, which is our seniors' lodge. And so we're probably going to do some geo work in early spring. Do you have any folks that are doing that kind of work that we could piggyback on at all? So it looks like we're going to move some dirt and build just like a parking area. So if there's a way that, or somewhere where we could piggyback on some of your people that are here, it would be good to know that. And you don't have to answer that question now. We can run that through administration.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think with even the local trades you've got in the community, like Parkway and others who have been, I know that they're bidding on certain parts of the project and things like that. And our geotechnical engineer on the project has been on. Administration has helped us out with that as well, so I'm sure there's lots of opportunities there to some degree. So, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the budgeting that we got, especially from your efforts, is coming from Parkway and some local contractors as well. So, yeah, absolutely, we can make arrangements for that.
All right. Yeah, so no other questions from our side. So again, thank you very much.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. We will talk again soon, and we look forward to seeing this be built.
Well, beginning of May, we're going to mobilize on site, so.
Yeah, we're excited for it. Thank you.
Time to start thinking about a groundbreaking.
Yes.
Yes. Should be exciting. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All right. Do we want to take a 5-minute break?
We're
we now have 4 people here, so I can start once again. All right, so we just have 2 decision items, probably the 2 most important ones in history. No, I'm joking. But the first one is very important for our community and is Drayton Valley and District FCSS Strategic Plan for 2021 and to 2025. And we have the lovely Lola Strand here. So if you would like to take the seat there or the podium, I don't mind either way.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Good morning.
I don't know if you heard that little side conversation, but my presentation is a little bit long, so I'll keep my preface a little bit shorter. Many of you were involved with the development of our strategic plan for the next 5 years. I'm excited that we had the opportunity to do that because I think it was a very timely. The needs of the community have definitely changed in the last 5 years. Our community has definitely changed over the last 5 years significantly. So this gave us an opportunity to have a look at the community currently and really hone in on what those community priorities are. And during this process, I mean, having said that, there's also been changes in funding. There's lots of funding that has disappeared from the community in terms of FCSS funding that we typically have access to, and other community organizations is putting pressure on our resources. So I wanted to take this opportunity not only to go through the process of identifying those priorities, but also make it an educational opportunity so that our organizations that are applying for funding, our new board members, our community organizations really understand the mandate of FCSS, the outcomes that we're trying to achieve, and really look at the role that we can play, because a lot of these priorities that were identified are not solely the responsibility of FCSS. We have a significant role, but many of them we can't do alone. So we need to make that really clear. So I hope what this end product does is really clarify all of those things. So it's a lot of information. So what I did was I created a video of a PowerPoint, a narrated PowerPoint. My hope is to then use that instead of going through all this information over and over, being able to use this PowerPoint to then show to FCSS board members, to show to our community organizations, and to those who are applying for funding. So hopefully I've achieved what I've set out to do. And without further ado, I'll let Nathan take it away. Yep. Hello, I'm Lola Strand. I'm the program manager for Drayton Valley District. Hello, I'm Lola Strand. I'm the program manager for Drayton Valley District FCSS. This is an overview of our strategic plan for 2021 to 2025. To develop our plan, it was important to gather input from the community. Therefore, we started with 2 community engagement sessions, one in person and one online. 22 of our community partners and funded organizations participated. In these sessions, they were asked to describe how they see FCSS and our role in the community. That information contained what we heard in this letter. And this information helped us support the strategic planning workshop that followed. Our town and county council members, FCSS board members, and staff and administration gathered to help to identify key risk factors and priority areas for the community. So here's some things that we heard from those 2 community engagement sessions. The first word identified by both groups to describe FCSS was connection. Within the community, across agencies and organizations, with other FCSS programs in Alberta, and with government departments. Identified as the community's collaborative nucleus that serves a significant and powerful function in the community as the convener. FCSS was noted for its ability to adapt. An example was given during the pandemic response when we coordinated a volunteer grocery delivery program to support seniors. At a community level, intelligence is gathered through walk-in or telephone inquiries, community conversations among service providers, and generally by keeping our ear to the ground. When challenges start to be apparent within the community, FCSS has likely been following the trend for a while. FCSS was identified as a neutral and supportive organization, kind of like Switzerland. FCSS serves as the community's social filter. Its passionate focus remains on what's best for the community and is relied on heavily by the community. A number of critical assets available through FCSS were mentioned, including the superior systems navigation skills, valuable for individuals, families, and the systems themselves. Customer service that gets people to where they need to be by taking people by the hand, as opposed to by simply giving them directions. And provides community funding and helps to secure grants for others, was definitely an asset that was recognized. And FCSS is placed at the center of this model. It is striving to achieve the 5 strategic directions as set up by the province of Alberta. FCSS is all about prevention. Therefore, we help people to develop independence, strengthen coping skills, and to become more resistant to crisis. We help people to develop an awareness of social needs. We help people to develop interpersonal skills, which enhance constructive relationships among people. We help people and communities to assume responsibility for decisions and actions which affect them. And we provide supports to help sustain people as active participants in the community. For individuals, families, and the community, there are external situations and circumstances that put pressure on their well-being. These can be things such as lack of social networks, housing insecurity, low income, loss of employment, lack of transportation, lack of positive family relationships, and poor parenting skills. These are known as risk factors, and they're represented on the diagram by the red arrows. The strength and resilience needed to push back on these risk factors are known as protective factors, and those are represented by the blue arrows. These are things such as enhanced coping skills, sense of belonging, budgeting skills, positive school and neighborhood environments, parenting skills, access to social benefits. These protective factors represent what FCSS strives to achieve. The province has identified specific overarching outcomes or protective factors, which we are responsible to report on. So every program or service we offer or fund must fall within one of these 7 areas. Individuals experience personal well-being, individuals are connected with one another, children and youth develop positively, healthy functioning within families, families have social supports, the community is connected and engaged, and community social issues are identified and addressed. So there's 3 ways that FCSS achieves these outcomes. Through direct services, through our crucial supports to individuals and families through referral, systems navigation, and direct programming. Through indirect services, we support community organizations to deliver their own critical programming, mostly based through our FCSS grant funding. And community development. FCSS roles include convening, collaborating, advocating, supporting, and encouraging community and organizational coordination on critical community priorities. There are different yet complementary levels of responsibility. Primary responsibility means that the issue belongs to FCSS and or the municipality has identified FCSS as the lead. Some examples of some responsibilities that are primary for FCSS are volunteerism, support for seniors to remain in their homes, such as home support program, our volunteer income tax program, building relationships between community members, and helping people to access the resources that they need. Shared responsibility. These issues require input from multiple stakeholders, and FCSS has the ability to contribute. FCSS often plays a critical role to gather stakeholders to find a solution. Some collaborations include the Homelessness and Poverty Reduction Team, the Community Parenting Coalition, and the Healthy Communities Coalition. In some cases, FCSS holds the responsibility at their table with shared responsibility until the community has the capacity to take it on. For example, when we needed a grassroots solution to affordable housing, FCSS played a crucial role in the development of Humans Helping Humans Housing Foundation. When the need was identified for licensed after-school programs, FCSS supported the development of the Boys and Girls Club. And although homelessness is not our responsibility alone, FCSS has taken the lead at the table to support the community to have the capacity to fill this need. Complementary responsibilities. This issue falls within the jurisdiction of another entity, but FCSS can play a supportive role. And there's many examples of how FCSS supports other organizations within the community, whether it be schools, the senior facilities, Alberta Health Services, RCMP, the list goes on and on. There's not much that we're not involved in. So the following priorities were identified as being the top priorities for the community to address. And these three lie within the primary area of responsibility for FCSS. So these are the ones that are at our table. So the first one is volunteerism. We all know how important volunteers are in the community. There are many programs and services that would not be available without them. Volunteer recruitment and retention was identified as a stress right now and a key priority area. Therefore, we need to continue to coordinate volunteer development, recognition, training, and advocacy among voluntary organizations, and explore the feasibility of a dedicated community hub for volunteerism. Second priority area for the community identified was sense of belonging. We want to ensure that people are not feeling socially isolated in our community and have that sense of belonging. And this is really crucial, especially during what we're going through with COVID. Therefore, we need to focus direct and indirect services towards the protective factors associated with belonging and reduction of social isolation. And homelessness was the third priority of concern for the community, and one that lies within our area of primary responsibility right now. However, we're to maintain a community development focus with this issue, with the vision of creating a new, sustainable, and purpose-driven organization to assume responsibility for this issue in the future. So there was two areas of concern that were identified as shared areas of responsibilities. There's a definite concern for the mental health of individuals in our community as well as addictions. Therefore, FCSS is to contribute to local knowledge, direct and indirect prevention programming, referrals and system navigation for individuals and families in the community, and try to support and navigate to enhance systems access. And poverty reduction was identified as a community priority as well. Therefore, FCSS will help to bridge economic and social perspectives to enhance opportunities for individuals and families experiencing poverty, unemployment, and isolation due to the lack of opportunity to participate in economic activities. So here's how it all comes together. Critical issues in the community are identified as priorities. And these are the ones that were identified as priorities here. FCSS has primary and shared levels of responsibility across those priorities. Part of the FCSS function is to help to identify common risk factors and protective factors across priorities to help the community to align their responses through direct, indirect programming and/or community development services. Decisions will be made to align to improve social well-being for individuals, families, and communities as per the provincial outcomes, all to strive towards achieving the province's mandated strategic directions to help people build resilience.
All right. Well, thank you very much for putting that together. How many takes did it take?
You don't even want to know. You don't even want to know how long it took me to put that together.
Yes, it's.
But I mean, now it's done, and I can use it for years to come.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. All right, so so there is a decision item for this. Does council have any questions for administration? Councillor Peebles?
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for coming today, Ms. Strand. So one thought as we're going through this, I'm guessing that you started building this before a worldwide pandemic hit, hey? So is there just some of our thoughts? I know there's support mechanisms that are going to be in place, but we might even find over the next period of time, there's going to be a few things, much like humans helping humans, that we're going to have to kind of be the lead on, and by we, I mean you. So is there any of those thoughts kind of being taken into consideration for the next season and time?
You're right. We're kind of living in ever-changing times, and we don't know what to expect. And that's the beauty of FCSS, is that we can morph and flow as we need to. So yeah, I mean, this is a 5-year strategic plan. However, you're right. Things might change, and responsibility levels might change. So yeah, although it took me a long time to make that take, I might be redoing it and realigning things. So I think we need to have a look at it for sure on a regular basis, just the times we're living in.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at our 2016 to 2021 plan, how did we do? How do we do on our 5-year rollout of what we had set out to do 5 years ago?
I think we did pretty well. I think we heard it, like our previous plan was not as specific to specific community priorities. I think if you look at the 5 sort of overarching goals, though, and what we heard from the community sessions, I think it speaks loud and clear that we've done a good job so far.
Councillor Dodds?
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your hard work. It's much appreciated. So I have a couple of questions. Yes, definitely, mental health is one of the things that, you know, we keep hearing no matter where we go. We can't seem to escape how important it is. So just a couple questions. So with the cuts to FCSS, like I know when, before there was, the money was going to be given to McMahon or somebody there, and then it was going to be coming. So with all those changes, like, can you maybe just fill me in on where we're at now and how that looks like moving forward with, you know, for the organizations that are coming to FCSS? Is there going to be less funding, or are we just redirecting them, or how is it working?
We're continuing to see an increased number of grant applications as a result of the change in funding. I think I spoke last time to council about the implementation of the Family Resource Network and the effect that had on many organizations in the community, and those organizations are continuing to come to us because, frankly, there's in many cases there's not somewhere else to redirect them to. So thus, you know, that's why it's really important for us to focus right now, because FCSS can be many things, and we get many requests to be many things. So we really need to hone in on that. And really work with the community to make sure that we can do the best that we can for our community with the resources that we all have.
Definitely. And then two, I noticed that you mentioned also in the video the after-school program. Is there an uptake, or is there an interest right now, or do you think that this is something that's a need or somebody should be taking on? Or? So
the Wildrose School Division did whenever the Boys and Girls Club left our community. The Wildrose School Division did apply for funding to do a program based on need, and they did do a call out for folks who were interested, and they didn't get enough applications at the time. But we're in funny times right now too. So, but there is a willingness with Wildrose School Division to do it.
Okay.
So we're just in very awkward times right now with COVID restrictions and stuff. So, but they definitely have a desire to do so in the future.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was just wondering if there was any change exactly because of COVID now, or, you know, even just like when we're talking about mental health, maybe there is more of a demand that, you know, for kids to be going somewhere after school, or if there's that capability to still pick it right up, right? But if they're going to be willing to take that on, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor McGee and then Councillor Gavanna.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the chambers. I thought the presentation was well done. I really like the fact that you put it to that, as you say, every time I give it, something's going to change because but here it's there, and it was well done. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
What struck me is I have two things that I think that I'd like to focus in is the seniors home support program. And when I think of that, I think of home care, but I think it talks about the two tables. There's their table and my table.
Yeah.
And so can you just explain that home support program just a bit more for me?
Yeah, so with their table and our table, Alberta Health Services is in charge of home care. So home care comes into the homes when people have medical needs, such as bathing and, after surgery and things like that. Our home support program complements that in many ways, because oftentimes when people are coming out of the hospital, they don't have the ability to do their housework or do their cooking and, that kind of stuff. So that's what our home support program is helps to fill those needs, helps with light housekeeping, helps with meal prep, helps with making sure that they have the resources that they need. The whole goal for our home support program is for seniors to have what they need to be able to remain independent in their own home. But we work very much in collaboration with home care, but the roles are very different.
And it's well known in the community.
Yeah.
People and so do we have a particular budget for that?
It's a fee for service, so it's not a free program. It is a fee for service. What we do is I have 2 home support workers, and there is a fee. However, as a part of the services that we provide, we also help those seniors to apply to get reimbursed through Alberta Seniors Benefits, because it is something that they can be reimbursed for. So in a roundabout way, the province is paying those fees. Through the Alberta Seniors Benefits, we're helping the seniors to access that so that they can pay us for that service. Does that make sense?
It does, and the reason I'm exploring it is I'm just in the midst of the latest book out on seniors, and it's called Neglected No More. And it's about, it starts off and talks about the history of care homes, and then it really gets down to the nitty-gritty of what happened with COVID and how we have actually neglected our seniors. And we have to change that.
Yep.
And because I'm heading there, and I think I'd like to be able to guide my ship just a little bit better. And so when I think of senior care, I think of that, the complements that you have, and it just needs to be, I think, clearly set out on how that works, because if we can keep a senior in their homes longer, it's much less money, and it's much better care. It's all of the things that, and yet it's not what we've been doing in the past. It's sort of, it looks like you can't take care of grandpa, off he goes. Into LTC, right? So I think there. I was curious about that, and that's enough of that speech. But I think I'd like to know a little bit more, and I can work offline on that.
Okay.
The last question I have is when you talk about a community, you talk about a community at large, much beyond the boundaries of Drayton Valley. How is that relationship going right now with the 2 local governments? You have us here, and we've got a local government that surrounds us. How is that relationship?
We are like Switzerland. As I mentioned in the presentation, we are known as Switzerland. We provide services to town residents as we provide services to Brazos County residents. And in fact, we also provide services to Parkland County residents as well. So having said that, the relationship is fine because we are Switzerland.
And do we fund you?
Pardon me?
Do we fund you from the town of Drayton Valley?
Yeah. Yeah, so how the funding model works is our funding, 80% comes from the province, and each municipality needs to match that funding with 20%. So we get funding from the town, we get funding from Brazos County, we get funding from Parkland County, and we get funding from the province.
Okay.
But it's 80% is provincial funding.
Yep, thanks.
Councillor Urbana, or, sorry?
Yeah, and Annette just reminded me, just as note, Emily and Paula are currently out at the community halls. So they spent Monday out at Whitby and Easyford Hall, and today they are at Lodgepole and Cynthia. It's been advertised. They even did a video on the Facebook page inviting people out in those areas to come and drop off their taxes because we're in the midst of our volunteer income tax program, and also to provide information on seniors' benefits and whatnot. So we're really trying to make an effort to make sure that our services are out within the county as well.
It's too early to gauge because it's starting today, is that?
We had Monday. We
how
did
was-
2 halls on Monday.
How was it?
No one came, but we're trying. You know, we're going to give it a go, and see how it goes. It's the first time. Yeah.
Councillor Gumana?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Strand, for that presentation as well as everything, FCSS does for our community. Thank you for that. Just, I'm, moving forward with the same thought process as Councillor Peebles. Just, I guess the environment has changed, the world has changed, and also the demographics that we are looking at, before and now, it's a broader demographic that's kind of struggling than before.
Yeah.
I was wondering about, that where, we have the homeless and we have the lower income, mid income, all of that demographics is kind of in a similar boat right now with isolations and mental health issues.
Yeah.
As well as the other important demographic is the newcomers to our community as well.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, how we can, integrate all of that, the presentation and all that, and going forward for your 5-year plan.
Although newcomers weren't specifically identified, this is very broad. So whenever we talk about social isolation, we want to make sure that everyone feels a part of this community, and newcomers is a part of that as well. So let me know if there's something specific that you think that we could be doing to specifically target newcomers. We see them often because they come in to community learning next door. So we do see them often and pop in and say hi. So they know we're there, and we have provided some resources. But if you think there's something specific that they might need, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you. We'll have
Okay. Is there a councillor that'd like to make a motion on this? Councillor McGee?
I would make a motion that council approve the breakdown of district FCSS strategic plan 2021-2025.
All right, thank you very much for that. Any comments, questions, or debate? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank
for your
you,
time
and
the
thank you for
presentation.
giving me all that time. I'm sorry, Annette.
All right, so our second decision item is actually a closed item. So is there a member of council that would like to move us into closed first? Okay. All right, so if that's all right with administration, we'll deal with the closed decision item last. So we're on to emergency services under the department reports. Mr. Tom Thompson.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council. So this morning I'm here to talk about animal control and our CPO bylaw enforcement program. So in terms of animal control, just to give you a few stats, for the month of February, it was a relatively quiet month. We took in 4 animals, 2 dogs and 2 cats. Fortunately, 3 of them were returned to owners, and then the final one was turned over to Cause for Critters. So our animal control officer has been spending a lot of time working with the public in terms of educating them on the rules and regulations of animal control. She's been placing flyers in the local post office, and a lot of people are taking them. So that's a good thing that people want to become better educated on our rules and regulations surrounding animals. Unfortunately, though, at times she has received some unfair attacks on social media. But last month, a good news story, she was flagged down by an individual who she had thought was worried about an animal, but in fact, that person just stopped her to comment on what a good job she was doing and to keep on doing what she was doing. So that was a positive for her and positive for our community. So there is a silent majority of people that are out there that do appreciate the job that we do. In regards to CPO, some good news. Our CPO officer successfully completed the final bridge legal course that was needed. So we have now submitted all of the certifications and everything to the Solicitor Generals to receive our level 1 certification. So we're waiting for that to come back. Hopefully that will happen soon. And hopefully there's no snags along the way. One of the issues that we are a little bit concerned about is his pair fitness test, because it's been so long that we've been on this program. It's past his due date, so we might have to quickly rush him in to get his pair done, but we'll get that done as quickly as we can, and so we can get him on level 1 certification, and then we're done. So looking forward to that.
Just wanted to check if we're making a very shiny public fun announcement congratulating him and informing the community of what that actually means.
Sure. Once his certification is finalized and it comes back, we will definitely make that a public event and also notify the community that he will be able to do traffic stops, which is going to be a key component of that. So, and that is my report. Any other questions?
Councillor McGee?
So we did get a response from a resident from outside of our jurisdiction or our boundaries of Drayton Valley on dogs in the back of pickups, and so we went through some reiterations of those, and even to the point of should we abandon the bylaw. And so I think it became clear to us that isn't the direction, and that education is really the direction. But what I had asked at that point was for our CPO to ask just what his colleagues have and would think about dogs in the back of pickups. And I have not heard back from him on that. So it'd be, do you know what the County of Brazeau and their colleagues think about that?
I don't. I can definitely follow up with him to make sure that we provide that information for council.
Yeah, and the reason I ask it, of course, is that if they have a bylaw, but they're not doing anything about it and would never do anything about it, and here we are, just as soon as I cross the border, I get nailed. I think we have to sort of coordinate that a little.
Sure. Yep, we can follow up with that.
Okay. Anything else? All right, moving on to 8.5, Safety and Protective Services. Okay, we'll move on to finance then, and then we can.
Good morning. So we had the auditors here the week before last, and it went fairly good, I think. Still kind of have some residual questions coming in, but we're hoping to get everything finalized and presented by April 24th, I believe, is the financial statement presentation. We also have a new staff member. She's doing great, and I'm really excited. She's doing arrears letters and tax notifications this for the rest of the month to make sure that's all done, because we have the deadline of March 31st. And then she'll be moving on to tax, so that's fun. We're that time of the year again, right? And also, we're currently heading into the final budget discussions, changes, updates, and such, so that'll be a busy next few weeks trying to get that all done for our first round of budget presentations early next month. So that's pretty much where finance is at right now.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions? Councillor McGee?
Just a quick one, and I haven't had, I asked about the letter that we were going to send out, I think for particularly Marlin Holdings, who wrote into us and said we're we're struggling, and so we were going to write a letter, and so I don't know if it's gone out or whether we have a long list and we just are preparing for that.
It was written and did you sign it, Mr. Mayor?
Sorry,
Do you
what was that?
remember?
I was just reading a note.
It was just the Marlin Holdings. You were wondering about it too because you got a call on, and it's about the tax.
Oh, yes, I believe I signed that.
Okay.
Thanks, Sabina sent it out, I think, last week, yeah.
Can you send me a copy, Sabina? That'd be great, thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we will move on to, I guess, the CAO update then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Just a few things. One, when Mr. Ellis was here, he did not announce that he received approval of the government grant to help with the mediation costs. So initially submitted for 15,000. We did receive a tip that we could ask up to the 50,000. So we do have the approval for up to $50,000. Of course, this is a matching contribution. So, Mr. Ellis, thank you for your work.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if I could announce that.
We have a letter and it didn't say it was confidential, so we can announce.
Can you just slide into, I've forgotten how much mediation might cost, and just so if we get a 50 and we match at 50, so is that the kind of numbers that we're looking at for mediation?
We, at the current time, Councillor McGee, are not looking at using up the full allotment throughout the mediation process. So the estimate that Mr. Ellis had determined was closer to around the $15,000 to $20,000 mark. So with the number of sessions that we've had so far with mediation, time will still tell. So it does depend on how much extra work we're asking the mediators to do. The other part of my report, of course, Ms. Thompson commented about the preparation for the final budget. So that's not only the capital operating, but it also includes our fee schedule. So this afternoon with our Recreation Board or our Recreation Committee, we'll be taking a look at some of the final fees that may need to be assessed for some of our remaining recreation facilities. That, of course, will just be a recommendation on to Council. And just one more thing that I want to highlight, and that is the council retreat, which was hosted on March 8th and 9th, 2 days where council and members of administration spent some very intense and dedicated time to take a look at some of the priorities going into the rest of this council's term and leading the way for the next council. And I think that's very important to ensure that there's a good path for the next council coming in, whether it's the existing council members or whether it's anybody new, but to actually have a game plan moving forward to take a look at those long-term things. And recognizing that some of the priorities coming out of that retreat, we've communicated that within the public, but certainly with that, tourism together with the EPBR, the landfill in terms of getting our house in order and some of the innovations that we see within the landfill, the hemp industry in terms of moving that industry further along than where it presently is and helping them out, the library in terms of finding a final home and destination for the library, downtown revitalization, and what it can do for our economic community, and then, of course, education with the zero fee assistance program. That is my report. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move back to Safety and Protective Services that Mrs. Law is joining us, so please feel free. Good morning.
So update from the health and safety. So as probably Owen has mentioned, we have this new asphalt hot box hole repair for the town of Drayton Valley. So the staff have been at Public Works. They've received some training last week. And I was out on location with them yesterday and going through the procedure and finalizing that, making sure that we identify all the hazards. So but they were pretty excited. There's quite a few of them that are trained on it. And hopefully we can improve the roads and the potholes around Drayton Valley. So So that's been good. Waiting for updates from WCB. I know they have the posters and everything coming out for the day of mourning that comes out, that's identified for April 28th, but I believe I haven't seen anything yet. They don't know if they're going to do something virtual or what's that going to look like so far. Just working for health and safety, you know, with most of our facilities up and going, not to full capacity yet, but just working on worker observations and worksite inspections at this time. So. Anything, any questions?
Perfect. Any questions? Councillor McGee?
Summer students?
Yes, we have 15 summer students coming on. They start the middle of April. We have them coming in 3 stages, 5 one day, 7 day, another day, and so on, 3 weeks in a row. So we should have them all up and going about the first week in May.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Did we want to do council reports before our last decision item? Okay, council reports, Councillor Dodds.
Okay, for me, just a few education meetings. So we're just finalizing programs for the fall of 2021. We're looking at agreements with our post-secondary institutes that we have MOUs signed with. We're also presenting our rural education presentation with Mark Smith next week to other rural communities that are surrounding us. So that's kind of just letting them know what we're doing, our programs, and that post-secondary education is still alive here in our community, and we really want to be the leaders in certain industries, and we have this facility that we're willing to share, and everything else. We just want to spread the word. A big, huge thank you to the Rotary Club for their multi-year contribution to our zero-fee tuition program. Very, very exciting. We had gone last week and received that, Michael, Emil, and I, $25,000. So yeah, very exciting. Can I mention the other one? Okay, well, I'll wait till my next. I might have something else to report or with that for education. Yeah, a little teaser exactly for that. Okay, so I'll skip through that. And then, yeah, I had a sustainability committee. We're planning some community connectivity events and, of course, the landfill and just some, exciting things that will be planned for this year coming out of that committee. And, of course, we had International Women's Day. There's no limit to what we as women can accomplish. So a big, huge shout out to all of us women. And, of course, we did our strategic planning. It was really nice. I think, the location just out of town here was great. It was a great time with council and administration to reflect on, the year that we've had and the year going forward and just really set that direction. It was really a nice time and I think, very economic based, and a big thank you to council and administration for all your hard work that you always do and commitment to everything and to council as well. We had mediation, of course, and chamber meetings. So just a reminder to everybody that Tuesday, March 30th at 6:30 will be the town hall, and that's the Chamber of Commerce is partnering with the town of Drayton Valley, Brazeau County, and local businesses in the area. We also have Mark Smith going to be attending that, and Gerald Soroka as well. So big shout out to them for coming. We're just stronger together, and we really want to be the best community that you can have a business in. So by kind of all collaborating together and hosting this town hall, and just, I guess, reaching out or letting businesses reach out just to, see how they're doing this last year and what their issues are, what their concerns are, and see maybe if they're, somebody has success stories too, how they've kind of, managed through this last year or going forward. It hasn't been all just, businesses closing and hard times. There has been some success stories as well. So we really want to recognize that, and we really want to recognize that we are stronger together, that sometimes, just partnering with another business or just listening and reaching out and just helping, because, we're not in this alone, and how do we work together? Maybe there's a business that can get together with another business and just collaborate and great ideas. So just spread the word, and if anyone wants to jump onto that Zoom meeting, and if you know of any businesses, make sure you shout out and tell them to come to that. And that is my report.
All right, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Gamana.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few more education committee meetings, and I'm not going to repeat what Councillor Dodds mentioned, but just wanted to thank Rotary Club of Drayton Valley for their contribution for sure, 25,000 over 2 years. And that's fantastic to see that there's a community support, growing community support for the Zero Fee initiative. Other than that, I've attended the another round of Chromebook presentations on the 15th. This time it was 5 more recipients for Chromebooks for newcomers, and Mr. Sirocco, as well as the president of the Community Foundation, Rob Mulligan, was at attendance as well. So it went very well, and in the end, Drayton Valley Multicultural Association, partnership with the Community Foundation, was able to give out about 12 Chromebooks to newcomers in our community. Other than that, on the 16th, the presentation for Zero Fee with the Rotary executive meeting. So Mr. Mayor and Councillor Dodds was there. Also, attended the Chamber of Commerce board meeting as well as the Fish and Recruitment Committee meeting last week. Another important meeting we had yesterday. Had a meeting with the Drayton Valley Multicultural Association as well as the Drayton Valley Community Learning Association. They are going through their 3-year planning and budget process as well as the Multicultural Association, and we are trying to figure out how we can partner together to make the Multicultural Center idea a reality in a small scale. So there's exciting things happening there. I'll keep you updated on that front. It's still an idea, but that's something that both the organizations are working towards achieving. That's it from me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really nothing more to report. The one piece of good news is I understand, and it may be announced on social media or not, but the DV100 looks like it's a go no matter what. They're going to figure out how to handle it. So I'm really happy to see that we're breaking down the barriers and the doors, and we're going to do something no matter what. So that's great.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I have nothing to update at this time.
Councillor Peebles.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have the council retreat on the 8th and 9th. On March 10th, the Alberta Hemp Alliance went to the Edmonton Airport to get our new office. We've been provided with a free office for a year, setting up with all the furniture and everything, and they toured us around the facility, and they're going to be talking a bit more because they're trying to build a bit of a protein cluster all through our region. Edmonton Airport is actually the 4th biggest cargo airport in the world. So there's a lot that's going on. There's direct flights likely be coming to and from China in the next little while, so there's going to be a lot more products going out. So we are set up, we are situated very close to that. There's great opportunities in the future for manufacturing and for growth for the whole region, which is great. So they're 12 years into a 20-year plan, and we are located right within that corridor, so it's really great for Drayton Valley. March 11th, we had the Drayton Valley Hoteliers Association meeting, and we talked about a regional marketing plan and what that would look like and what kind of partnership that would look like, and they are prepared to contribute a significant amount of money to the fund to try to help move this forward as we go, as well as the community foundation, so it could be really good. On March 15th, we had our mediation discussion with the county. And March 16th, we had a meeting at the airport with a bunch of hemp stakeholders. So through our conversations with Trevor Caswell, and in an effort to showcase hemp in Alberta, because Alberta really is a leader in the hemp industry, it looks like there is a farmer that is going to be growing about 240 acres of hemp in the airport, like at the airport, on the grounds for the airport, within the fenced area. So there is a section of land, they're going to be growing it. That is going to go, I think, some's going to probably go to Dan here. Some's going to go to Aaron Bar in Bruderheim. They're going to create products, and those products can be displayed within the airport just to show what we can actually do right within our area. So it's pretty good, right from seed to product, and kind of using the expertise we have in Alberta to make that happen. And there's some great land for growing in Leduc County. Then the 17th and 18th, I had meetings with a few different hemp business owners in Calgary, as well as a meeting with the executive director of the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance, the overarching, essentially, if Alberta Hemp Alliance is AUMA, then the CHTA would be like our federal FCM, yeah. So, it was really good. We have a ton of synergies, working very closely together, and now seeing what Alberta Hemp Alliance has been building, they're now wanting to roll out alliances in each province and see how they can be supporting those mechanisms. So a little bit of a kudos to the town of Drayton Valley and this council's foresight and investment in this is really what we started with the Alberta Hemp Alliance out of Drayton Valley and trying to pull everybody in is now something they want to duplicate across the nation. So it's pretty great. And that's my report.
All right, thank you very much for that. That comes to my report. Only a couple things of note. March 10th had a conversation. It was set up by the mayor of Whitecourt. There's a number of other mayors from across Alberta on the call with AESO. They're the board that kind of deals with the Alberta electricity. And had to do with the upcoming tariff changes that they were proposing. And there's some concern from large industry that'll have a significant negative impact on them. So this is was fairly new to me. So I was just more of a bystander just listening in on the conversation. And it did sound like some of those concerns from the large energy users were being addressed, and hopefully in the next few rounds of discussions that they can come to a tariff model that everyone can agree with. They did mention it had been a number of years, I think upwards of 15 years since the last review, so they felt that it was time with the changing economy in Alberta that it needed to be readdressed. So we'll kind of keep my finger on that just to see how that moves forward. It was more specifically, I think, the lumber mills that had the biggest concern as being a large user of energy. And speaking of lumber, I've had a number of meetings with Weyerhaeuser over the last little while on a few different fronts. Continuing to do what's best for our community, whether it's for supporting the industry or looking out for other opportunities. So looking forward to more meetings with them in the near future, and hopefully they're productive at the end of the day. So with that, is kind of the end of my report, and I guess we will then move into our last decision item, 7.2, which is closed. Is there a councilor that would like to move us into closed? Yep, we do, but we took too long, so they're going to have to wait. So we have our Councillor Dodds moves us into close at 11:10 for Section 7.2 of our council agenda under Freedom of Protection, Section 24.1 and 24.1C3. We're all in favor? We're now in closed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. We're here to address the ratification of the collective agreement between the town of Drayton Valley and QP 2515. So we, following the GMP meeting where council gave us direction on how we can proceed with the union negotiations, we spent a day and a half with the union, and considering this was my first time going through collective bargaining with the union, I will have to say that there was a great sense of cooperation on both sides, and a very good understanding of where each party was coming from. So the process went very well. We were very in-depth with the review. I think that was a bit of a shock to members of the union bargaining team, but very detailed. I will give all the credibility I can to my colleagues, and of course Alicia and Owen are also part of that negotiation team. And without a doubt, Alicia presented all of the information we needed with respect to understanding the collective unit, the bargaining positions, the labor standards, the legal requirements. Need I go on? So with that, we came to a conclusion, and we have an understanding from the union and your town administration to proceed. The RFP that's in front of you discusses a little bit of the background history, and then, of course, the number of things underneath the memorandum of understanding, memorandum of agreement that we discussed. Things such as discrimination correspondence in terms of who responds to what initiative, onboarding, grievance procedure, discharge, suspension, discipline, seniority changes, standby rates, general benefits, term of agreement, training and education, wage rates, letters of understanding, such as the weekly indemnity and contracting out. It was we're not going to cover a day and a half of discussions, but I do want Alicia just to touch on some of the bigger items that we did address in collective bargaining.
Sure, thank you. After we were in here last time, I think we left with some very good, clear direction and what we were able to negotiate on and what some of our push points may be. I'll give you some of the highlights. The contracting out clause that they wanted to write right into the collective agreement, we were able to keep as an LOU. We were correct. That would have been a hill they were going to die on. That was never going to get thrown out. So we kept it as is, as an LOU to renegotiate in 2 years' time at the end of this agreement. The health spending account, we tried to be clever in our wording and just to say, hey, we'll offer same benefits across the board. And the argument back was, well, we don't bargain for everybody. We bargain for our unit. Fair point. So we did agree upon a health spending account that matched our current, which is $250 per year. If you don't use, whatever you don't use in your first year, it rolls into the second year, but you have that extra year to use it. So to a maximum of $500 every other year. So we agreed, that was agreed upon for both sides. We were able to get the just clause, we're not unable to terminate employees without just cause. That got thrown out. But we agreed upon, we will adhere to progressive discipline procedures, which we already do. So that stayed in, but definitely lost that just cause language, which would have been detrimental to management, just to be frank. And I think those were the big key things. We tried, there's a LOU in there that's called weekly indemnity. It's an administrative nightmare, so from an HR perspective and a payroll perspective, we were really hoping to lose that weekly indemnity LOU. And it basically is a top-up for staff for short-term disability. It didn't go anywhere, but it wasn't to make or break. I said, yeah, it's just an administrative nightmare, but it's nothing that, if it means we're not going to come to an agreement, it's okay, we'll renegotiate that in 2 years' time. And it was a curveball that we kind of threw them that they hadn't seen in prior negotiations. So without bringing in that bad faith bargaining, we just let that one go. I think those are the major highlights. I've got my scribbles here, but for purpose of council, I think those were the huge, yes, in the grievance procedure. We'll not be coming to the council level, yes. I'm like, how did I miss that one? Yes, no, we will not. We just stayed with the current collective agreement, so it stays at the CAO level. Should it not get resolved at the CAO level, then it goes then to mediation and then to arbitration.
I do as well want to highlight, just with respect to financial impact, we of course had negotiated earlier the 0% for 2021 and 2% for 2022. With respect to health spending account of that, that does of course mean there's a financial impact. We know as well in terms of the historical perspective, our out-of-scope employees have not really been capitalizing on it. So it's not as excessive as we think it would. But the other thing too is that we are working hard within our existing benefit package to try to say, okay, there are some things we can move on within our benefit package that can reduce it. So it really kind of blends its way off evenly, if not to our advantage in terms of what we can do on a benefit package.
So just on that note, so if we removed health spending from out-of-scope employees, would the unionized staff still have it?
Yes. Yes, because with the language, what's been negotiated now, it is now an ongoing thing for whenever it's now going to be in the collective agreement. Should that ever want to change, it would be a bargaining item at the end of the collective agreement. As Annette said, I sat there and critically thought about it. It's not a make or break because it provides us the opportunity to look at the other stuff and we can kind of work around it within what we offer our staff for benefits.
But we can still make other changes to the benefit package.
That's correct, yeah. The only thing in the collective agreement with regards to benefits is really our cost share options and our pension plan and RSP. That is actually written right into the collective agreement that we must contribute the 2% to the pension and the 6% RSP. I might have confused those, but anyway, 8% total. That is written into the collective agreement. But everything else, when you call it health, dental, massage therapy, drugs, that's all not written in there, so we can really massage that. And there's so many different options out there when it comes to benefit plans.
And just for clarification, while something in a collective agreement might be difficult to remove, it's not impossible. It's just that once it goes in, it just becomes a more difficult bargaining position.
Okay, Councillor McGee.
The relationship between the union and the town is, from your point of view, is improved, and right now we've got an agreement. That's great, but generally the relationship is in good shape.
I would have to say that it has certainly improved. The fact that we received a compliment from the union president, I guess right there in negotiations was, of course, good credit to us. We are moving on some things and stabilizing what our management needs to be doing as well. I know that the union is coming up with their AGM in April.
There's talks that it's not going to happen now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a whole different political thing for them.
Okay. So I would have to say that yes, in terms of where we've been with some of the issues. What was a bit of it was a scary point for me in the sense of wondering if the union would have taken a stance of saying that the town administration and town management was not working in good faith and not dealing with them in good faith. The fact that they went back 3 times, ratifying something 3 times. So it was a little bit of a concern for us. So that's why in terms of it's fair that we brought at the last minute the weekly indemnity, and we backed off on the basis of, yeah, we can understand this is new, and it really isn't good faith, dealing in good faith to present something to you new that was not presented to you at the end of last year with negotiations. So that's why we kind of backed off, but we did provide a notification that it would be something that we'd be addressing in the next round of negotiations.
Councillor Peebles.
Oh, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but we're in close, so you're totally safe. I always struggle to understand the relationship between a union and just like when I look at our staff, we're staff, right? We're working together. We're trying to move the community forward. It's kind of what it is. And our negotiations sometimes get a little funny because it's like, we could do this, but then those guys can't have this. It's like sitting at a separate table with your family, but your adopted kid doesn't get to, to have steak, he gets hot dogs. It's just a weird kind of thing. And I think that's sometimes how they feel. So you've now you have an interesting experience. You've got to sit on both sides. So you have a probably different degree of empathy than I do for that. Can you give me a little bit of your perspective coming from that side to this side and just seeing the differences? Because it would be like you sitting on Brazeau County and then sitting on Town County Council, right? So I honestly, man, like, your perspective is very valuable, and I just want to get your thoughts.
When I was operating in public works, I've worked at a couple unionized places throughout my career and coal mining and that. And in the past, was there a place for unions? Yeah, there was, because I mean, industrial revolution around, you know, the Depression era. I mean, there's some pretty bad places to work, right? Nowadays, things have really changed. We're not these overbearing tyrants that send children into textile, you know, factories working in poisonous gases, right? However, you know, unions are very much still alive. So, I mean, my perspective is, and even when I was operating for public works, is I feel that there are times where the union goes a little greedy, a little overcompensating. They don't really see the grand picture. I mean, their role is to negotiate for their memberships, but I mean, us as administration, we have to represent you, you know, the residents, you know, things kind of on a whole. So when we're looking at things on being, you know, fiscally responsible to you guys, to the public and that, they don't care about that. They just want more money for their people. They just want higher wages. So even when I was over on that side, there were times where I'm like, why are we always fighting? Like, you know, is this really a big deal? Is this not something we can just try to bridge the gap and come together here? I mean, not to name names, but the current executive, it's a little problematic because in the past, maybe councils or past senior administrations maybe didn't care as much or wanted to look into it. So basically, the union executives would come and bark, and we go, sorry, never mind, just we'll let you do whatever you want to do. Where I think that's a little detrimental to us now that I'm sitting on this side of things, right? So that's kind of my perspective, Councilor Peebles, is I thought things got a little carried away when I was on that side, and now I'm looking at this, and in a lot of cases, our hands are really tied in a lot of ways, right? So hopefully that kind of sums it up for you.
Okay. Councillor Dodds?
So what about wage rates?
Yeah, sorry, I skipped over that, didn't I? It remains the same. So we didn't really discuss wages. The MOA that was presented on, agreed upon in December, remained at 0 and 2%. So 0 in the first year, which is this year, 2021, and 2% increase for 2022. The other thing that we just said, yeah, we'll accept that, we're going to move on, was the standby rates. They had increased by $5, so we just said, yeah, we'll accept that. You know, we were more concerned for language going into this round of negotiations.
It was just that $5 increase? That was the only, I thought there was a couple places. It was just that one?
Sorry, Annette. Yeah, it was the unit went from $30 to $35 for standby on weekdays, and then standby due during statutory holidays went from $35 per day to $40 per day.
Okay.
So it's kind of the same rate, but on different days.
Councillor Gumana?
Thank you. Just, you know, the last item here is the contracting out clause, and, you know, did they mention anything about that? Had there been any discussions?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they were trying to write it right into the collective agreement. We had a no, that won't happen stance, and we were very clear with that stance, so we were able to maintain it as a letter of understanding attached to the agreement. So at the end of this agreement, so at the end of 2022, it is now again a negotiating item that they would have to try to fight for again. So it's still in there as an attachment to the original agreement.
So the other thing that fundamentally that I'm struggling with is that, you know, from the last agreement to this agreement, is there anything went down at all, or is everything going up?
Typically speaking, that's how negotiations go. The union comes in with the big asks, and we kind of bring those asks down. Exactly, and keeping employment standards in consideration as well as labor code into consideration, and our policies and procedures into consideration. So there's a lot going on. So typically in a negotiation, depending on what our mandate is as an employer, the union comes in with their mandate. So let's say they wanted 2% increase, they're going to come in and ask for 5% and hopefully meet in the middle. So our goal is to get as little as possible into the agreement. And so I believe we've done a good job at clawing some back, so that MOA we came to you with last time, we definitely crossed a lot off. So yeah, we were able to take some out, which I took as a win, because there was some pretty bad language in there that I'm glad we were successful in taking out.
One example you can use.
Yeah, so they wanted the 3 hours rate of pay when they get called in for a meeting, for example. And I just looked at them and said, well, that's labor standards. We have to pay that. And so we said, okay, yeah, we'll accept that, because we have to follow that rule anyway. But what I don't agree with is paying you for 3 hours just because I have to. If you ask to go home, I'm not paying you for 3 hours. If you show up, I'll make sure you work for 3 hours. And if I send you home, I have to pay you for 3 hours. But if you say, hey, we're done here, I want to go home, I'm going to only pay you for the time you were there. So we were able to negotiate that back down. So I guess, yes, I did get some money back.
Councillor Dodds?
So this is being, when we come out of close, this is being brought, will we talk about this in detail again for approval, or how does this work? It's just for my mind, because I'm thinking, for me, I'm kind of adamant about the 0-0, and even if it's $5, about nothing, because I think non-union employees got nothing. I don't think it's the time to be getting any sort of wage increase or anything this year or next year. So I'm just kind of trying to determine how I'm going to do this, or what the next steps are, because I'm not in favor of any of that, right? I feel that maybe wasn't negotiated to what I would have liked to have been negotiated, but that's just me.
So we're in a bit of a pickle here, to be honest with you folks, because if we would have started like this at the very beginning of this negotiations, we could have came in there going, we're meeting labor standards, zeros. But however, due to the previous negotiations, there is a possibility that the union could take us to the labor board going with bargaining bad faith. And if the labor board sides with them, the labor board comes in here and goes, Town Drayton Valley, here is your new collective agreement. Just sign on the dotted line, we did all the work for you. And we have no control of what's done. So I hear what you're saying, Councillor Dodds, but we're at the tail end of this game, and to kind of poke more, we could face that reality. It's really unfortunate. We couldn't have had a good, solid go right at the beginning. Yeah, because that really screws us. I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Ewan, because that's exactly where I would have advised council, is the fact that we knew that we had to make some concessions here, because I was surprised that the union did not go there at the very first, in the very first statement coming out of their mouth. So, right. So it was unfortunately something where right now we are in, and I think they were a little surprised that we're going through this in quite some detail, and the fact that we are solid on the knowledge and the backing behind everything that we presented, but just the fact that we are still at this game when they thought the 2 times before they were finished. So, yeah, it's a very tenuous relationship to make sure that we can follow through on that. I understand, Councillor, your concern with 0 means 0. Unfortunately, that did not go to their union collective and their membership as such. So it was important for us to recognize that we really did not have the strongest position going into those negotiations. Okay. So if I can just answer the question that you had asked in terms of what's the process, we come out of closed. a resolution is made by council, you can have whatever discussion you want to have on it. And then, of course, that vote would fall the way that it is. But understand that if we don't ratify the agreement at this term, strike doesn't scare us. That's not what scares us. What scares us is the ability for them to go to labor standards.
Because, I mean, essentially a strike vote, if it was a large, you know, if the situation was different, that would be a scary thing for us. I mean, honestly, if they strike vote and if they actually strike, half of my teams, because I got about 75% of all the unionized workforce here underneath me with this acting role, half of them would scab it, and the other half I can just fill it with companies around town. I mean, that I'm not really concerned with here. But it's just, with Councillor Dodds furthering your question, if we want to fight on the $5 a day and they go to the Labor Board and the Labor Board sides with them, the Labor Board might come back and go, yeah, give everything that the union was asking for, including the $1,500 health spending account that they initially proposed. And another 2%.
2%.
It's a risk. It's a gamble.
So when you say, I know, I just have a really hard time, I totally get what you're saying, but so just hypothetically speaking, if we come out and, let's say the majority of council, so when we say ratify, does that mean it just comes in a resolution, whether that's for or against? Or ratifying is it has to be for?
Ratifying would mean for.
Would mean for. So if we come where it was the opposite, then that's when there could be the potential.
I would really personally recommend that in the, when would we start bargaining again? A year and a half, basically? Basically a year and a half.
180 days.
Just make sure administration has a really rock-solid bargaining team, like right out of the gate. And a mandate, what you guys want to see, or not see.
You mean the mandate for everybody to do whatever they want isn't good?
I already know what I want to negotiate, so.
I mean, ultimately, it's up to you guys, what you want. Like, what you want to see in there, what you want tossed out, it's up to you guys. So, and you have to let the team know what you want.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
The other thing I want to make note of is that there is a responsibility for the management to be following through this. The relationship with the union can be a lot stronger, and we want to get there, but we are wanting to make sure that our management follows the process that's been outlined. And if we can follow the process that is there, and that our managers do everything that they're supposed to be doing, when we enter into those negotiations the next time around, we will be in a better position, because the union will understand, hey, management is doing its job, they're following the process, and man, they're prepared. So we need to make sure that this is a continual thing. It's not just simply negotiations and then we go away and do whatever we want. It's continuous.
Okay. Councillor Gamana?
Dollar figure wise, how much are we looking at of a budget increase with these changes?
For 2021, we're not seeing a significant change at all. As I've mentioned, we're looking at, it's 0% as far as the wages. The health spending account is something we believe we can recoup, if not even gain a better advantage on with respect to our benefit package, because that applies to everybody. And then, of course, in 2022, it is a 2%, and I believe the number was $80,000.
So for 2021, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000? 6,000. $6,000?
Yeah.
Let me get my math out.
Thank you.
Sorry, so with the $250 health spending account, if the entire union members use their full $250, and there's approximately 70 union members. Yeah, so let's use the approximate 70 union members times that 250. You're looking at 17,500. That's a big if. For example, I've been here for a year. I didn't use my health spending account. So you're going to run into, that's a very fluid number.
I haven't either.
And I mean, I guess with their benefit package, it is a very good benefit package. So you may use it if you have very expensive eyeglasses. If you have a large family and they use a lot of dental, you're going to use that. You know, if you have some very expensive prescriptions and you know our plan doesn't cover it, of course, you can use your health spending account. That's what it's there for. But it is, I could say there's probably a good number of people that aren't going to use it.
No, my concern is that is not now the 250. It's the next time around it'll be 500. The next time around it'll be 1,000. Right? You know, it's gonna go keep.
To a maximum of 500.
I know, but you know the negotiations will continue. Right? Exactly. You know, next time they will ask for 500. Next time, so because it's in the agreement, you know, they can keep up. You know, that's my concern.
Okay. Any other debate? Okay, so just when we do come out of closed, just be mindful of some of the confidentiality if we are going to have a conversation.
After a discussion with Owen about the stupid
Which, and you know, and I hear you, Councillor McGee, is just, ever since I started, actually every unionized place I worked, it's always like us versus them, right? And I never really understood that, right? Because, you know, I get it, Councillor Peebles, I mean, I have staff that's out of scope and in scope. They're shoulder to shoulder, almost doing the same job, maybe a little bit different. And I don't understand why there's such a disparity, you know? Anyway, sorry.
I agree totally, yeah.
Okay. Nothing else? Move out of closed?
No, let's move on.
Okay. Is there a councillor that'd like to make? Councillor McGee made the motion to move us out of closed at 11:38. All in favor? That is carried. So we do now have to probably call a break so we can get what's that?
You're legally required to call a break after a closed session.
Okay, so we'll take a break.
It's part of the MGA. Exactly. Considering about it.
It's all about interpretation, that's part of the,
You hired the right lawyer, you can do whatever you
Thou
want.
shalt
call a break.
well, shall doesn't seem like that strong. I think I shall not have people over at my house. Here I shall be.
Maybe it's this one, I don't know.
Instead for today, I will go plunge in the sink.
Okay. Nathan, are we recording again? Okay. For the recording secretary, Councillor McGee moved us out of close at 11:38 a.m. So there is a motion that needs to be made after closed session. Is there someone that'd like to make that motion? Councillor Peebles.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that council ratify the memorandum of agreement between the Town of Drayton Valley and Canadian Union of Public Employees, 2515, as presented.
All right, any comments, questions, or debate on that? Councillor Dodds?
I just want to say a big thanks to administration for their hard work and working on this.
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, so the motion is that council ratify the memorandum of agreement. All in favor? That is carried.
And I'd like it recorded, please.
Request that before we vote.
Well, it was not carried.
It is carried.
It's not carried. I didn't vote on it, Farrell.
Okay. I thought I saw your hand go up when I said all in favor. My apologies. So is there anyone opposed? Okay. And I don't know what, I will need to get administration's recommendation as to getting that recorded. So we still. Information items, 10.1, Childcare Operational Board Meeting Minutes, October 1st, 2020. 10.2, Brazeau Foundation Meeting Minutes, January 15th, 2021, and February 28th, 2021. 10.3, Star Catholic School Board Meeting Highlights, March 2021. Drayton Valley Municipal Library Meeting Minutes, February 18th, 2021, and stats from February 21. Can I get a motion to accept those as information? Oh, Councillor Gamana, all in favor? That is carried. We will adjourn our meeting at 11:44 a.m. All right. Well, we have a delegation that was supposed to start half an hour ago. That is here. So we do need to call our GMP meeting to order at 11:44 a.m. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Yes. What is that? Council item for the coal policy. That would be 6.1.
I was just wondering if we should talk about that bike registry thing that we sent email to us a few times.
Yeah.
We should, yeah. Maybe. I'm just.
Yeah.
If we should put it there. Okay.
Yeah, we can have 6.2 as the bike registry that someone mentioned. Annette, Ms. Dreessen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You had asked for the National Police Federation letter to be brought forward.
Yeah, not for today, just for like the next GMP.
Okay.
Wouldn't put that as a very high priority.
And then I do have another one, and that would be the Humans Helping Humans Foundation and their request to council.
Okay, so that'd be under administration, 5.2. Humans Helping Humans. Okay, is that it? All right, so March 17th, 2021, Governance and Priority Committee meeting minutes. Everyone's fine? Okay, we'll move to our delegation, the inspector group, Mr. Ryan Nixon. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your patience.
No problem. Thank you. I'm told I'm supposed to go over here, so this is what we'll do. Okay, so, good morning.
Good morning.
Council, Mayor, and councilors. My name is Ryan Nixon. I'm the Director for Business Development and Innovation with the Inspections Group. I've been with the organization a little over 11 years now. And we're going to wander through about 10, 15 minutes here of this real quick presentation on the benefits of being accredited. You're already accredited in the building discipline, but just speaking to the electrical, plumbing, and gas side of those things. So, yeah, so I'm going to try to keep track of hopefully where I'm at. Well, I'm doing this behind myself. So the construction, with any construction, most people are familiar that they need a permit. They're not always familiar with the fact that they need multiple permits and the fact that you need building, electrical, plumbing, and gas. There's codes and all of those things. And probably the most common question we get in regards to dealing with permits is why bother? A lot of people's feedback around them is, they're kind of a tax grab or something like that. This is my favorite example because I'm a big hot tub fan, so I use this a lot wherever I go. There's a lot of code that actually goes into hot tubs that most people are not familiar with. Ground faults on the electrical side, most people are familiar with that you want your electrical to be faulted so that if you have an electrical issue, it kicks out. The plumbing side of this is actually something that we learned here in Alberta. We actually killed 6 children in Alberta learning that you need multiple intakes. So you don't need much water to drown. You only need, to be underneath it. So there's actually code requirements to deal with hot tubs. So you have to have 6 different intakes because you only have 5 appendages, and they have to be at least a certain distance apart. So building code also then deals with the lids on those so that small children don't walk on top of them. They used to make really thin lids and kids would fall in. And so now you can actually, code requires that I can walk across a hot tub lid and it'll be fine. So this is an example of a larger issue on an electrical project and just the benefit of getting inspections on a plumbing side of things again here. This is not an actual building. It was just for the sake, because the lawsuit's still going on. One of our inspectors retired and moved into a 9-story condo. And that project, when he went in as an inspector, he said, well, I'd like to take a look at the building. 9-story buildings are not supposed to have ABS, combustible pipe, inside of them for the plumbing system. But this example actually did. So to retrofit that building is about $3.5 million now. For the sake of a, say, $200 inspection, that could have saved you a lot of grief. So gas, most people are familiar with the hazards of gas. This is from Edmonton. This is the text didn't come up. The subdivision, so there were 6 buildings that were affected by this. And, this is the, speaking behind myself has thrown me off a little bit. Yeah, so this is a gas one here. There was a gas explosion at Lagos Lida subdivision in North Edmonton, and it destroyed 6 buildings and moved another 6 off their foundations. So gas explosions, people tend to have a fair bit of respect around those things. And then on the building permit side of things, every person's home is their castle. They like to see this. I share this one everywhere I go as well. This is a burn test that was done at an Alberta Building Officials conference a few years back. And I like to ask people just rhetorically how long they think it was from the cigarette butt that started this that fell into the trash can to this point. It's not as long as most people think. It's a little over just under 3.5 minutes. The smoke detector that's in the center of that didn't go off until 1 minute and 18 seconds into it. So when we talk to people about fire safety within their homes, like the smoke detectors that are there to protect people, they give you a very narrow window where you got to leave. So it's not something that's going to give you time to pack. So, yeah. Fire code, not particularly here, but you already have your fire department here and doing some of those things. This is a hotel fire that essentially started from a light fixture that had frayed cords. And fire inspections, the benefit of doing fire inspections, especially on public or hotel buildings, is that a fire inspector walks through and says, okay, you have appliances that are frayed or damaged, they need to be replaced. Unfortunately, this fire somebody actually died in, and just for want of a $20 light fixture, right? So benefits of doing those kinds of things from a safety codes thing is that anything that hurts you can teach you, and if it keeps hurting you, you're not learning. The kind of morbid truth of safety codes is that we only write code requirements if you kill people fast enough or you burn down buildings fast enough. If you only kill 1 person a year, we don't write code rules about that. If you only burn down 1 building a year, we're not going to write a code rule about that. It has to be systemic for us to do something about it. So that being in mind, when you look at The code requirements, then the lesson, we kind of refer to them as the lessons of history, all those code requirements that come to everyone's building. The average property owner has to know a building code. They're responsible for fire, for plumbing, for gas, and electrical codes. If you stack those codes on the desk, they're about 2.5 feet high, and they refer to a small library of material standards and installation requirements that, if you stack those up, are taller than me. So the average homeowner is legally responsible under the Safety Codes Act for a ton of information that most of them don't even know exist. So we talk about why you want to be accredited. The Safety Codes services here, you want to be accredited because you want to design services that are specific to your municipality. Being accredited at the local level gives you the ability as a council and town to look at and say, okay, here's the focus and drive and the awareness for things that are happening here, and to design services around providing service to your residents. We talk about red tape and those things is something that the provincial government's talked about. Again, that deals with local services. Local people know their communities better every single time than having the province run it. So, increased engagement, you know, it's getting those, that engagement with local municipalities and having your residents engage on electrical, plumbing, and gas issues instead of going to another party just keeps that engagement local. And as much as possible, that's what we try to encourage. We think that's the best way to go. And then the safety codes, permits, and budget and that, like, the people are going to buy those permits one way or the other. Electrical, plumbing, and gas is not going to make a big splash as far as the finances go, but it will add a little bit of money to the revenue. And people are going to buy those permits anyway. If you add that money to your local budget, it's better than having it go to the provincial one, which is going to do things that are maybe not tied to your community at all. So this is a really short history here, and I'm going to try to not ramble too much, but this is just inspections group, and so you know a little bit more about us as an organization. We've been around for 20 years. We work in a wide variety of municipalities, pretty much every style of municipality there is in the province we work in. We're the only accredited agency to work in a metropolitan center. We provide work for the City of Edmonton and for EPCOR Utility. We do work with the University of Alberta. We've worked with them for the last 20 years as well, arguably some of the most complex projects in the world. And we do a lot of corporate work in the oil field with Suncor, Imperial Oil, and so on. And we do Intertech certification, so if you're not familiar with that, if you build some gas or electrical appliance that's uncertified and you're creative and you created some new way of powering light fixtures or making a generator, you can get uncertified equipment tested through Intertech, and we provide that service as well to get those things certified and get labels applied to them as well if you're one of those creative individuals. And then we have the depth on the bench. We have 36 inspectors within the organization, and we are the most active private agency with the industry as a stakeholder. So I sit as the current president for the Alberta Building Officials. We have a sub-council, a fire sub-council chair who sits with us there. That person actually sits with fire code, and that's the council that adopts fire code and changes in those things. So he speaks to that. And then the electrical inspectors, plumbing and gas as well. And we have presidents and various people in those associations. We issue permits quickly and efficiently. We say 1 to 2 weeks, although right now we try to keep it, that's what we tell everyone who calls in. We try to keep it in under 5 days, and a lot of the year that's the case. But that's kind of the stock answer. We try to under-promise and over-deliver. As far as plan reviews, those are done to help make sure that people understand and see the value in their project. That's the communication we try to get back to residents at the beginning of an application that says, here's what you need to be aware of, or any issues. We do inspections. Inspectors carry their tablets that have their codes on them, and they go do the reports. And that's us here. So I think that's the end of the presentation. Yeah. Try to keep it short.
Yeah, certainly appreciate that. Any questions from council? I'll go to Councillor Peebles first.
Thank you. So what would this look like then for us? Say, would this be a kind of thing if there's new construction? Would it be if somebody was selling an existing home? What is your recommendation of how it would look like to be certified, how this process would go?
Okay. The certification, adding electrical, plumbing, and gas is going to look a lot like what you have right now. It would be a conversation with the administration in terms of if we want to keep the permit applications going directly through the municipal office, or you want those to come directly to us. We offer both sides of that service depending on what's going to work for staffing from the municipality side, as well as the agreement on just split for permit fees. The heavy lifting and accreditation is the building discipline. All the organization to get the paperwork together, it's the most paperwork intensive of all the permit applications, is the building one. Electrical, plumbing, gas on the paperwork side is actually relatively mundane. So the process that you have right now will take a lot of those things into consideration. The volume would go up a little bit in getting those electrical, plumbing, and gas permits. You would apply to renovations, like when people run new electrical or plumbing or gas systems within their building, they do have to pull those permits. But you also then have, in having one provider, don't get me wrong, I always argue that I should be the provider, but it's always good to have, we would recommend one provider as much as possible, because the speed in identifying work that is going on without permits is much faster. If we know that we provide all the electrical, plumbing, and gas permits, and I know I didn't give you an electrical permit, and you're doing electrical work, that electrical inspector can very quickly determine, you can call our office and say, confirm you're doing electrical work, do you not have a permit? No, we know we don't have a permit there. That's a 5-minute consult with the office, and the inspector can talk to you on site and say, okay, you have to actually stop and go get the permit. Nobody goes into a project intending to electrocute themselves or to create issues, but they don't understand that the value of getting that permit brings a certified inspector who's a tradesman in their own right to their site to help protect them as a consumer, to say that this is actually the code. So that process in terms of the municipality won't be vastly different from what you're doing right now. It'll be more of a discussion around if the additional workload is more than what the administration is going to have for time from the admin staff to deal with, if they want to deal with that internally, or they want us to do that.
Okay. Councillor Dodds?
So what's the difference then, like when you're talking, are you talking that the homeowner themselves is the contractor, they're pulling the permits, or there's a contractor that's been hired, or there's a building company? Because I'm under the assumption that like if, that the electrician would pull their own permit, a plumber would pull their own permit, so then why would I want to pull another permit on top of that?
So the electricians and plumbers, it's not a second permit.
Yeah.
A homeowner can pull their own permit if they choose to. In Alberta anyway, a homeowner is allowed to pull permits to work on their own home. You can't pull an electrical permit as a homeowner to work on your neighbor's home. That's because electrical, plumbing, gas are protected trades. If you as a homeowner hire a contractor, that contractor can pull the permit.
Yeah.
But when we go to look for that permit, for example, if you didn't pull it, if your contractor pulled it, we would be able to look by address and say, okay, 121 Main Street has no electrical permit. If there's a contractor there, we can talk with the contractor, and usually the contractors are pretty good. Electrical, plumbing, gas permits normally get issued the same or the next day. So it's not like a time constraint from our side where we're inhibiting people from doing work. They get issued pretty quickly. And yeah, so, but it's not a second permit. You only have to have one.
One permit. I guess maybe that's more of an administrative question is, what is the proposal? So the proposal is then that the town, like whether you're a homeowner or a contractor or whoever pulling the permit, rather than them phoning the inspection group, they would call Drayton Valley and they would get all the permits at once kind of thing, or is that?
I would just clarify, the one thing that I think the proposal right now is that the town of Drayton Valley would become accredited in electrical, plumbing, and gas. So right now, if you want to buy an electrical, plumbing, and gas permit, you're actually not buying it through the town of Drayton Valley. It's going through the Alberta Safety Codes Authority. Now, I am a service provider in this Safety Codes Authority, so they may come to my agency, but they may not. They can go to a number of other agencies, and if I don't have the permit, I have to send a request to the province to ASCA and say, I have a building permit, but I don't have electrical, and I got gas and plumbing, or vice one of those. I need to confirm where this one is. And then they have to go to each of the other providers and say, do you have this permit? And then they come back to us and say, oh, yes, so-and-so does have a permit, it's with this provider. Or they come back and say, no, there is no permit. And that's usually a week or two at the best. And sometimes can take up to a month to get that answer back on who's got the actual permit. Whereas if you're accredited, the proposal is that the town of Drayton Valley be accredited for electrical, plumbing, and gas, so that the work that's going on, we would know, because at least right now, we're the current service provider, but whoever is your service provider down the road, they're only looking in one place. We know that everything comes through the one service provider, and it's easy to find. So that's the proposal.
Do you think, though, at all, have you seen, like, in the past or at any municipalities that it defers people, like, as thinking, well, now my community or my municipality is accredited, right? So now I have to go through all these, people might say, I'm not speaking for myself, but people may say red tape, right? Now I have to get this, this, and this, it's just more money. Like, do you think people, like, I know we are people are avoiding this already, so could this work the other way, though, too?
People could say that. I would say that probably it would be beneficial to have a conversation with people that have that concern, because the main thing that they're not aware of is that right now they're paying for, part of their permit fee goes to support the Alberta Safety Codes Authority. So just like other jurisdictions that I have contracts with, I split those permit fees with the Alberta Safety Codes Authority. And the Alberta Safety Codes Authority, when they took over electrical, plumbing, and gas permits and building permits for unaccredited areas, permits went up 30%, so that they could pay for administering or having the province administer those. And your response time for services went down. All right, so just the coordination went down. So as far as the additional burden, they have to buy that permit one way or the other. They're supposed to buy that permit one way or the other, whether they go through the Safety Codes Authority or they go through the town of Drayton Valley. And I would say that having it come through the local municipality helps make sure that we build safe communities. Like, everybody wants a safe community. You want to rely on your electrical, your plumbing, your gas system. They should almost be taken for granted if everything's done right. And we would talk with homeowners and property owners and say, you know, the permits actually help them as a consumer be protected, because it brings a third party whose job is solely there to make sure we're going to get the minimum level of safety in that building, who is an electrician, who is a plumber and a gas fitter, and you can call and ask questions. We encourage people to call and ask questions so that they can, because we're not trying to hide anything from anyone. We want people to build safe buildings. And we're not playing an elaborate game of gotcha. So it's in our interest, and we work really hard to educate people, and we would be happy to do that. We do open house forums when codes change to share that with contractors. We invite the public to those things so that as much as possible we can be educating people about what they need to do, and that there's all those codes that they're responsible for, that there are resources and people who can, through the inspectors, that can help them. Yeah.
Councillor Gumana. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally understand the importance of, safety codes and having a safe community. My concerns are more of, I have first-hand experience with Edmonton, how their process works, and the timing and the time frame. It's not easy to go through their process, and it's time-consuming. So in a small community like ours, right now we get the permits, we get the building permit and all that, and then it's again to Nancy's comment there. How do we make sure that this is not a red tape? How do we make sure that when the town or the municipality is doing this, and it doesn't get hogged up, as well as the entrepreneur or the business person that is trying to start the business is going to come back to the town and saying, you are stopping me of doing this, right? So
Sure.
that is my concern, especially with the Edmonton experience.
Sure. Edmonton is a unique animal. I can say that from our side of things, We, in our contract with City of Edmonton, we provide inspections within 24 hours of when the city gives them to us. We can only do them when they give them to us. And that's part of their internal process. So the way that they're organized and structured, my service level is 24 hours with the City of Edmonton, and we've maintained that. So that's where I say on a local level, that's a conversation about the service level that you want here. Like for us, everywhere that we issue electrical, plumbing, and gas permits, it's a day, maybe two. Like if you call at 4 o'clock, it might be the next morning. We've done that for 20 years, and we'll stand by that commitment for issuing permits. And for building permits, we do the plan review at the beginning part, and we don't always issue right away if there's clarification that's there, because we want to clarify anything, especially anything that could be expensive or time-consuming before you start putting shovels in the ground. Because if you need to make a change, or you need to, if you're going to build a large commercial building and you don't have a hydrant anywhere near you, and you need to bring a hydrant and you didn't plan for that, then you want to find that out before you go to move in, and then we have to go try to find the fire services and find some sort of special arrangement out. We work really hard at the front end to have those conversations so that a building owner can, on a building permit side of things, make sure that they can address those things early in the process. We want to get into construction and let it go smoothly. We don't, as long as they build what they said they're going to build on that side of things, usually the construction goes very well. So, but on the electrical, plumbing, and gas, I can say our service levels have been excellent. We have a really good history with that. And I would say that, the delays that you see in the City of Edmonton are more of a municipal process. But we don't have that even here with the building work. Like the work we've done with Drayton Valley in the past has been excellent. The administration here has been very supportive. We have very prompt communication. The documentation flows very quickly. So I wouldn't foresee any of those things here.
Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councillor McGee?
So I really like the idea of the whole piece of education, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really get the point of that people are sort of bypassing because of time and but the whole thing of building safe communities, there's a reason for what we do.
Oh, yeah.
And don't take our guys to task on that. It takes a bit of time, but it's about building safe communities. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to really ratchet that up, that kind of conversation, and get it out there. So,
Yeah, we're very happy to support that as much as possible. And if there's open houses or public forums, like I have a different presentation, and I'll bring something that I can watch, because I track a little bit better when I don't see out the back of my head very well. But we've done a number of those over the years as codes have changed. And again, it's just about trying to make people aware of what's happening, right? And telling contractors what's happening. We're not trying to hide anything from contractors. Okay, here's the change, here's how we're going to call it, so you know what's going to happen. And then it's predictable, right? We want that construction to flow. We don't want to be, surprising people. That's not part of it's not productive in our industry, so.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we appreciate taking the time to give us this presentation. I'm assuming administration will be bringing something forward to kind of further this process down the road. We just needed that presentation to get some background information as to who you are, what your group is, and how this would work. So we do appreciate it. And then we do appreciate the patience. Again, sorry for the delay.
No problem at all. Anytime.
All right. Ms. Dreesen.
Just one question for Mr. Nixon is just, I know that our aquatic center committee has been in touch with the inspectors group, so I'm not too sure if you were part and parcel with that, but if there's anything that we need to be concerned with, that we need to redirect to the aquatic center.
Okay. I did review the project just in general, because we were asked for a quote in terms of time for those things. And the two inspectors that I had that were doing the plan review, our supervisor, Richard Friesen, and Lawrence Bernhard, and myself, we looked at it. We don't see anything that would raise any red flags. We have a lot of experience, as I was just talking in the intermission, or during your last closed session here with some of the administration. We have a lot of experience with Group 2 architecture through the University of Alberta. They've been a fantastic organization. They're usually very organized and very good at what they do. So everything I could see at this point looks like you have a good team together, and it should go really well.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. All right, we do have another delegation for 1, so we will break for lunch at 12:12 and reconvene probably around 12:55 so we can be prepared for that delegation. Thank you.
I don't have my meeting at 1 o'clock.
Hey Garth, it's Bill Bellis, Councillor of Town of Drayton Valley. Are you from Hinton? Where are you from?
From Prince George, calling in from Prince George, BC.
Prince George, BC, where you got the PST.
That's right, but you're not gonna hold that open.
No. How are things in Prince George? My brother used to live there.
Well, things are really going quite well as far as it can be. You know, our refinery just got sold. Husky sold it to Tidewater. They're still going well. The forestry, the numbers are pretty good. So that's going well. I teach, so the education system is still doing okay. But just like this, we're doing Zoom meetings a lot. I did spend a bit of time looking over Drayton Valley, and next time we're able to travel, I sure want to come in and see that technology center that you have. That was really interesting.
Another thing that might be of interest to you is the BCG, the Biocomposite Group, which is a hemp manufacturing plant.
Yeah, I was reading about the BioMile and really intrigued. How are things generally going in Drayton Valley?
Mayor?
So I guess that's deferred to me. So this is Michael Dirksen, the mayor. Nice to virtually meet you, and do appreciate you taking the time. To answer your question, I see an upswing coming. Obviously with the energy prices and being a commodity-based local economy can be ups and downs, but there's certainly a lot of optimism in the air right now, and we're looking forward to I guess a post-COVID world where there's maybe a little more personal interaction, as you alluded to, and just whatever that brings. So with that, I do appreciate you taking the time, and maybe we'll get into it. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're a very busy person, and so I believe you may have a small presentation to present, but just to give a bit of a preamble as to what prompted us to make this request. I believe it came from a letter that we did receive from the town of Bonnyville in relation to just some of the concerns that they had. And I'm not saying that we're necessarily in line or not aligned with them, but we just felt that, as an elected official, sometimes when people come knocking on your door, you know that they don't have the whole story. And so I guess this is our attempt to try to get more of the story and just get a little bit more engaged. And obviously with COVID, it's been a bit of a challenge to getting out to those conferences and having the connections and having conversations. And so, this past year, we'd be kind of just interested to see what FCM has been or continues to do for Western Alberta. I mean, obviously, there's different segments of the population, and it's a pretty wide spectrum as to where you stand on
going from Western separation all the way to, just to the other end of the spectrum. I'm not sure what that is, but I guess it's continuing being Canada. So I just, as a rural community in Alberta, there's a lot of vocal voices, covering that wide range of the spectrum from political insight. And so I thought we'd just maybe take this opportunity and have that conversation with you and see what FCM is doing on Western Canada, or more specifically Alberta, just for some of the advocacy work that you're tasked to do for the federal government.
Well, thanks for the warm welcome, Mayor Dirksen. I'll start with an introduction, talk about some of the pieces in the last year, and focus in on the western pieces that we really honed in on, and then maybe go towards where we're headed, where the puck's headed with budget 2021 and beyond.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yep, perfect.
Great. Well, my background is going into my 13th year on council here in Prince George. I moved up from the big city for 2 years to do my degree up here in Prince George, and I stayed for 25 now. Started a business, met Sue, raised a family, and then got into local government. That story is probably repeated all over Canada. When I first got started, I also got really involved in FCM right from the beginning. So I've been on the board for 11 years and got named into the presidency just after the pandemic hit. So I've had one of the beauties of this Zoom or this video conference world is getting more chances to meet more meetings than when if it was traveling. We represent more than 2,000 municipalities all across Canada, so gotten to see everybody from Nunavut and tiny remote municipalities all the way to Toronto. We represent more than 90% of Canadians. And it's that unity that's the piece that's so important, because when we go and talk to Ottawa, we've got to be not just representing one or two, but when we come in and say, look, these are the needs for municipalities from coast to coast to coast, then that really reverberates, and that's where we get some progress. Some of the progress that you've seen, I think Drayton Valley's allocation from Safe Restart was roughly 700,000. So we started advocacy about a year ago and got some serious time spent in on meetings, which secured that $8.6 billion in emergency funding. That was the federal, provincial, territorial Safe Restart. The other one that's been a really big blessing for us in rural BC has been the expanded $1.75 billion universal broadband. That hasn't rolled out everywhere, and we're still, what it's really highlighted is how much we need to get effective broadband connections all across Canada. So when that announcement came out, that was another result of local governments and municipalities working together. We saw the challenges that were being faced by all of us in Western Canada when the global oil slump hit and the shift in supply, the shift in demand at the same time. It's put a huge strain on Alberta and Saskatchewan's crucial oil and gas sector. So November 2019, we launched a specific task force on that. We called it the Western Economic Solutions Task Force. Because we know that just in the last year alone, there's been a 4.1% increase in unemployment in the oil and gas sector. When I moved to Prince George, we were at 15.5% unemployment. Essentially, when the resource communities get hit, they get hit hard. And I know that impacts of the downturn that we're seeing in Alberta and Saskatchewan in particular, that's been really amplified by the pandemic too. So we know Drayton Valley must be feeling this, feeling it longer, feeling it harder, and we've got strong ties between the community and the oil and gas sector. In my conversations with Western leaders from big or small communities over the past few years, that worry has been very amply and loudly communicated. I think just like everybody else, the elected officials in Alberta aren't shy about saying when people are hurting and working hard for their communities. And these are vital sectors. In some cases, that's supporting generations of families. We know that when major industry in a community suffers, it spreads across the communities. Charities see a decline in support. Sports teams don't get sponsorships. Hotels stay empty, and retail and restaurants, they lose clients. And you and the whole town, you're on the front line. And we get that. That's why we work together, from my community to your community to communities all across Canada. I want to spend some time talking about the work of that task force, the Western Economic Solutions Task Force. Its mandate, what it's done so far, and the work we've got ahead, because it's big. The tangible accomplishments so far, we lobbied the federal government to create a program to clean up orphaned and abandoned oil and gas wells. They listened. We met in Leduc just over a year ago, and the advocacy brought that $1.7 billion investment to clean up those sites. We're starting to see action on the ground right now. Provinces are rolling out grant programs with federal funding. They're creating jobs, getting people working right now. In total, the funding is going to create 5,200 jobs. Fall economic statement, they also responded to one of our recommendations. They expanded the Western Economic Diversification Canada. There's going to be an agency for prairies. There's going to be one for BC, and we're going to be pushing for increased budgets for those because it's all the more important right now in both of those communities, even though we've got both of those regions, even though we've got different challenges. December, federal government released the climate plan that has new funding for greenhouse gas emissions from the energy sector, as well as Canada's first hydrogen strategy. That came under the West recommendation as well. That new hydrogen strategy, that's got a lot of potential for Alberta and Saskatchewan in particular. It builds on resources and skills you already have available. It's going to create opportunities for pipe fitters, welders, operators, safety supervisors, engineers. West and FCM, we're going to bring that into our budget 2021 advocacy. The Conservative Party of Canada, their bill would exempt farmers from the cost of carbon pricing on fuel for grain drying, and that's an issue that West has been lobbying on, and we're continuing to prioritize that for budget 2021. I also want to note that when West met in late January, the task force released a statement recognizing the anxiety caused by uncertainty in the energy sector and the resulting challenges facing those communities as they rely on those jobs in the context of President Biden's executive order to rescind permits for the Keystone XL project. The statement reiterated FCM's policy calling on the federal government to support the development of nation-building energy infrastructure projects, including through prioritizing national utility corridors, and that's a position that we've re-emphasized in a recent meeting with Prime Minister's Special Representative to the Prairies, Jim Carr, and we're continuing to advocate on that. So we got specific, significant progress to build on, and right now we're in pre-budget, so this is the moment to do it. And that's, at the end, I want to ask you for your input as well. I need to hear what kind of questions or what kind of directions, because this is a great opportunity for me. In budget 2021, our current focus for West is pushing the government to implement economic recovery. We've got to get supportive for Western communities. Some of the items, investing in the National Trade Corridors Fund, put $1 billion in for 3 years and then invest $100 million through rail safety improvements. We're asking that they maximize the impact of the new development agencies for BC and the prairies. We want them to increase the budget by at least $600 million over the next 3 years. Compensate farmers for the cost of federal carbon pricing on grain drying and barn heating. We want them to create a new energy transition community infrastructure fund, and then implement and fund that new hydrogen strategy I talked about. We're advancing that with advocacy work with cabinet ministers and with the official opposition. Just last week during the RMA meetings, we got a one-on-one meeting with the finance critic Ed Fast from the Conservative Party, and reiterated some of these discussions. Some of our key priorities in the budget as well, we are calling on them to double the gas tax fund allocation for the next 3 years. That will deliver more than $4.4 billion a year. That'll help kickstart job creating infrastructure projects. And that's that's the theme I want to emphasize. Job creation, we need that, we need the economy to get going. In 2019, when FCM secured that one-time doubling of the gas tax fund, that was an extra $400,000 to Drayton Valley. So that's what we're asking for the next 3 years. We've heard from members that the top of them was helpful, and we think now's the time to build on what's been a really effective tool for us to stimulate the local economy, build the infrastructure, and again, get the jobs. I'm also interested, I don't know if I'll have time, but when I'm talking about job creation, I've read a bit about the Getting Drayton Valley Back to Work initiative. Really interested in how that rolled out, and I'd love to get more information myself. But that's a personal request, and I should keep going on that, the FCM piece. The decision, though, that you guys had on hiring local contractors while utilizing the infrastructure grants, that's a really interesting, that's an important success. It's one that communities across Canada should replicate. Anyway, we need to put people back to work and doing it with infrastructures. It's infrastructure projects, it's smart, and it's effective. We're also going to call on the federal government, and we've already began a call to invest another $2 billion over the 3-year recovery window for disaster mitigation and adaptation. Alberta's been hit hard. You got your fair share of natural disasters from Calgary, High River, or Fort McMurray. Injecting another $2 billion over the next 3 years. That's going to unlock ready-to-go projects. It's going to create good jobs again and strengthen our climate resilience all across the country. But that new investment isn't enough. The current program has restrictions in place that prevent small, rural, and remote communities from accessing the dollars. So we've been advocating for the federal government to eliminate the $20 million project scale floor. That'll open the door to small, rural, remote communities who've been excluded from disaster mitigation up to this point. I want to also talk briefly about some of the programs we've got right now going. The 3 big ones to highlight are our municipalities for climate innovation, our municipal asset management program, and our green municipal fund. The Municipal Climate Innovation Program, MCIP, is a 5-year, $75 million project. That program is funded by Infrastructure Canada, and we deliver it through FCM. Drayton Valley is participating in it through the Energy Futures Lab, through Energy Futures Roadshow Initiative, and both of those got funding through MCIP. MAP is 8-year, $110 million program. It was created to help Canadian municipalities improve asset management. MAP's delivered $778,000 for capacity building projects through AUMA, RMA, and Infrastructure Asset Management Alberta in a partnership. We're also providing funding directly to municipalities for projects they're conducting locally. I know your community has been approved for funding to conduct asset management software implementation as well as data collection and an asset condition assessment. In total, Alberta communities received $5.5 million in funding through MAN, the Municipal Asset Management, for their capacity building projects and local community projects. Finally, the Green Municipal Fund. It's a $1 billion program. It's delivered by FCM, funded by the federal government. So far, projects funded under GMF, they've created about 11,600 person-years of employment. Drayton Valley got funding in 2017 from GMF for the design of your net zero aquatic center, which is fascinating for me because we're just starting the construction here in Prince George for our aquatic center. We're aiming in the same direction. Anyway, we're really pleased to see in September 2020, federal government announced $7.5 million in funding, and that's now going towards construction of a 27,000 square foot aquatic facility. Bravo. I just want to touch a bit before I finish up on how to engage our members and how we carry out advocacy for you. Our members all across the country, we've got a board of 110, we're engaged to ensure that our policy reflects regional realities. In Alberta, that happens through Prairies and Territories Caucus, through our Western Economic Solutions Task Force, the Northern and Remote Forum, through the Rural Forum, the Big City Mayors Caucus, and policy committees on issues from community safety and crime prevention to municipal infrastructure. We also have a professional team that we hire on an ongoing basis in Ottawa. Our staff is, we've got top experts that we have available in Ottawa. They've got experience with all the political parties, and excellent relationships with the government, with key cabinet ministers. This year we were again named as one of the most active lobbying organizations in Ottawa. We've had multiple meetings with the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and we've also prioritized building a strong and working relationship with the official opposition. Since November, we've met with Aaron O'Toole and at least 10 members of his shadow cabinet, plus at least 60 of the CPC MPs through meetings with BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Quebec caucuses. Well, we're going to be meeting with the Alberta caucus in early April, just a couple of weeks from now. And it's a sophisticated strategy. We have a range of tools. We do regular relationship building.